a San Jose State team who recently celebrated their 75th year as a college football program, first starting in 1950 and having a very steady climb to the FBS level. First starting as an independent team before joining the Pacific Coastal Conference, the Big West Conference, the Western Athletic Conference, and then most recently, what they're known for in 2013, the now Mountain West Conference, where they first struggled coming into this conference, but since 2020, they've had 4 7-win seasons. But unfortunately, in the most recent year of 2025, they went 3-9. Even though they had the receiving yards leader in college football in Danny Scudero and a pretty solid starting quarterback in Walker Eggett, unfortunately, both of them have departed from this San Jose State program. So in this rebuild, we will be taking over this depleted program with the goal of winning the first national championship in school history. And as we take a look at our roster here, our best player coming into this rebuild will be a punter at an 83 overall, which is sort of scaring me for this season, but he is tied with our best defensive player in Ethan Powell. Both are at an 83 overall. Ethan Powell should be a solid user for season one. But for the rest of the defense, we have Gordon Sims up to a 79 overall at the defensive tackle spot. Our best defensive back is Brian Dukes up to a 77 overall. And then our only other defensive player above a 75 overall is Dejon Rooney up to a 76. But the unfortunate thing with all four of these guys is 3 of them are seniors, and Gordon Sims could leave after this season. So this team doesn't have much of a bright future, but the side I'm excited about is the offensive side. After having 2 receivers lead all of college football in receiving yards for the receiver position, as last year it was Danny Scudero who led all of college football, and then in 2024 it was Nick Nash. But for us this season, it looks like the new guy who could possibly lead college football is Anthony Ivy. Our best receiver is an 80 overall with 92 speed, one of 3 80 overall players on this roster. But I said I was more excited on the offensive side than the defensive side because we have a ton of stars. Chen is our best offensive lineman, a 79 overall. Our wide receiver 2 in McClure is up to a 79 overall. And then even our running back 1 and Jabari Bates is up to a 78 overall. But for the rest of this roster, some mid 70 overalls, low 70 overalls will likely fill out the rest of the starting lineup. But the big thing for us is who will be starting for us at the quarterback spot. It looks to be Luke Weaver in season 1. He's only a 74 overall, so we're going to have to find a replacement as he is a senior graduating after this year. But now for the schedule that we'll be taking on here in season 1, as it will be a Mountain West schedule, but unfortunately in week 0 we will be traveling to 15th ranked USC. Then we have at Eastern Michigan, home for an FCS school, and then home in a rivalry game against Fresno State. Then we have a bye week heading into conference play where we'll take on at Hawaii in a rivalry matchup. Then home for Wyoming, at UTEP, at Nevada, home for New Mexico, home for NIU, at Air Force, and then home for UNLV, and then home for North Dakota State University, just coming up from the FCS level. But the last thing we have to talk about is our staff for season 1. As unfortunately, with how low of a school we are, we can't hire much as we don't have that many NIL points. But I will go out and spend 150 to increase our off-season progression by just 5%. Any boost that we can get to upgrade this team, make it one of the Mountain West's best, I will take that. But now, we're going to set up our recruiting board and then head into week 1, where we'll start our season. Now, as we head into week 0 here, we are not going to jump in and play this game against 15th ranked USC, but we do have a couple things to talk about. The first one is our recruiting board for this season, as unfortunately with only 300 hours and under 700 recruiting points, we can't go after many high school prospects. But for the ones we are able to go after, they have one attribute that I'm really excited for, and for this 3-star quarterback, it's 90 throw power. We also have a 3-star edge rusher who's a gem, a 3-star athlete linebacker who's a gem, and then 3 cornerbacks. This 3-star cornerback has solid zone and man coverage, and both of these 2-star corners are above 90 speed. So it's not much. I'm really looking forward to that transfer portal to try and turn this team into a powerhouse after just one season. But that will be at the end of the season. But now another thing we have to talk about is going back to our schedule once again. As in my most recent rebuild, I have made a change to where instead of playing 3 games per season, I will now only play 2 games per season. And in this very first season, it will be in week 3 in the Valley Cup at home versus Fresno State. And then I want to try and get a conference game in before the end of the season. So it'll be at home versus North Dakota State, the newly promoted FBS team after moving up from one of the best in the FCS. It will be in week 13 in a game that could either get us a bowl game or even the conference championship game if we play well enough. But now the final thing we have to talk about is our goals for this rebuild. As the first one is an obvious one, you've got to win a national championship. The whole point of a rebuild. But the second one, it's going to be different from what we had in our first rebuild. It will be to lead the country in receiving yards. San Jose State is known for their receivers the past 2 years and leading the country, at least at the wide receiver position, as Danny Scudero and Nick Nash have both led all receivers in receiving yards in back-to-back years. So at some point in this rebuild, we need a receiver to lead the country in receiving yards. Whether in the game that we play, we have to force feed him the ball, or the CPU just finds ways to get the ball in his hands. Somebody's got to lead the country. But now we're going to go ahead and sim to our first game that we'll play in this rebuild. It will be against Fresno State in the Valley Cup. Now, as we head into our very first Valley Cup of this rebuild, we are going to jump in and play this game against Fresno State. But before we do that, we're going to take a look at our first 3 games. As we're currently 1-2 on the season, with the first loss coming at the hands of now 14th ranked USC. A loss that we could have predicted a couple years ago, but by a score that most probably couldn't have predicted, only a 40-32 loss. Then after nearly traveling across the entire country the very next week, we would lose 19-10 against Eastern Michigan. Then our first win of this rebuild comes in our first home game of the season as we would beat the FCS team 23-17. So with the win against Fresno State, we could get back to 500 on the season, but with our first win comes some help in the recruiting game. But now we're going to jump into this game to see if we can win our very first Valley Cup of this rebuild against Fresno State. 2nd and 2, Fresno trying to get us to jump offside, but instead they'll go out to the left side and find the first touchdown of this game. It'll be 7-0 Bulldogs. 2nd and 11 for Fresno. Dropping back to pass, looking for somebody to make a play. Scrambling out of the pocket. Going to throw it to the back of the end zone, and how is he not covered as Fresno finds another passing touchdown? 2nd and goal, and we're going to send the house. Try and prevent the run up the middle. They're going to keep it with the quarterback, and he's just going to walk into the end zone for a 3rd Fresno touchdown. And the lead is now 21-0. 1st and 10. A handoff up the middle, and Fresno State's going to leave with their 4th touchdown of the game as it's now 28-0. 1st and 10 for our offense. Just looking for some sort of points on this game as we're going with Bates. Bates with a beautiful cut. Does Bates have enough speed to go all the way to the end zone? It looks like he does. And we'll find our first points of the game on a 75-yard rushing touchdown from Bates. And he's now over 225 yards rushing. 2nd and 25 will come out for the final play of the game. Let's have some fun. Throw it up. Go one-on-one. It's going to be McClure. It's underthrown by a mile by Weaver. McClure comes down with it in the 2v1, and we'll end this game with a jump ball touchdown on a Hail Mary. That's a fitting way to end this game. Our offense couldn't do much in the passing game all game long, but Jerry McClure comes down with the ball on a Hail Mary. We'll get the PAT to end this game, make it a 28-14 game. It was a terrible offensive performance from us, but we did have 230 rushing yards from Jabari. A great rushing performance from him. Even though we lose this Valley Cup, we did have some positives. Like I said, 230 rushing yards. Our defense was fine. we would just give up the big plays. We had some rough third downs, but the big thing for me was I expected this team to be a huge passing team. I expected the offensive line to be ready for the passing game, but we were terrible at blocking. Now, after losing to Fresno State in our rivalry game, we have simmed to the midway point of the season where I will now give an update. As after that Fresno game, we would be 1-3 on the season, but since then, we have gone 3-1 and clawed us back to 4-4 on the season. As after that Fresno game, we would get a much needed bye week before traveling to Hawaii in a rivalry game and getting a 1 point win, 23-22. Then our fourth loss on the season came at the hands of Wyoming at home, losing 17-14. And then winning two straight road games at UTEP 40-38, and then at Nevada in the most recent week 33-21. So now heading into this New Mexico game, we still have 5 more games on our schedule. If we're able to win 2 of them, we will get a bowl game, with one of those games being that North Dakota State game that we will jump into and play. But with our 4 wins on the season, we have landed our first 4 recruits. The 3-star quarterback that we were targeting was the first one. Then the 3-star athlete Gem. Unfortunately, we lost the Gem edge rusher to Arizona State, as their influence was just too much. But we also landed our 2 90-speed 2-star cornerbacks. So now we're targeting a 2-star running back with 92 speed, a 2-star athlete who I'm probably going to move to an edge rusher. Even though he's only 5'11", he's got some decent speed and strength. Maybe he can be a solid edge rusher if we're able to land him. And then we're also going after a punter, as we're currently losing our number 1 guy. But now we're going to go ahead, sim all the way to the end of the season, where hopefully we have our 6 wins and lock up a bowl game before jumping into our game against North Dakota State. Now, after simming through the midway point of our season, the thing I at least wanted to happen is what we have to deal with now. As we are currently 5-7, which means this game against North Dakota State determines whether we get a bowl game in season 1 or whether our season is over after this week. But after we hit the midway point where we were 4-4, we would go 1-3, as we would win against New Mexico that very first week, which means that we had to win one of these next 3 games, but unfortunately we lost all 3. 30-13 against Northern Illinois, 17-9 against Air Force, and then against a top 15 UNLV team that's currently 11-0, we lost 38-7. So now we have to win this game against North Dakota State, but with no updates in recruiting, as we haven't landed anybody else yet. We're just going to go ahead and jump into this game to see if we can get our 6th win and possibly find ourselves in a bowl game. On 4th and 9, we'll take our first field goal of the game to give us a 3-0 lead. 2nd and goal from the 8. Gonna motion the running back to his right side, trying to get us to jump off sides here, doing it twice. They're dropping back to pass, looking for something. Over the middle of the field, he's stepping up, gonna float it to the back of the end zone, and it's a North Dakota State touchdown, as they'll take a 7-3 lead. 1st and goal after the false start. Now from the 6, a slant over the middle of the field to Riley into the end zone, and we'll take our lead right back with a touchdown. 1st and 10 from the 16. A handoff to the left side goes Bates. Bates with a beautiful block. He's going all the way to the 5 and to the end zone for another touchdown. And now we should have a 10-point lead before the end of this first half. 4th and inches. It's an RPO out to the right side. He's going to break the tackle and go all the way to the end zone as that play completely blew up in our face. 4th and goal from the 4. A dangerous move to not take the field goal, but we want the end zone on this drive. Dropping back, going over the middle of the field to the back of the end zone, and it was caught by the wrong receiver as I was trying to throw it to the back of the end zone, but we'll get another touchdown and a 10-point lead once again. On 4th and 4, the field goal team will come out after a huge defensive stop. 1st and 10 as we're closing in on the 2-minute warning. Will we hit that point? No, we won't. It's a pass. Rolling out to the right side, throwing it deep downfield. He breaks a tackle, and North Dakota State is somehow going to find the end zone to tie this game up at 24. We'll come out here on 2nd and 10, bring out the field goal unit to take a field goal, 35 yards. We make this and we have a bowl game, and it's right down the middle. We'll beat North Dakota State in the final seconds. 27-24 the final score, getting our 6th win, locking up our bowl game, a huge game. We nearly blew it in the end there, gave up 10 points in the 4th quarter to the Bison, but did not let us end our game there. Another huge game on the ground for Bates, a much better game throughout the air for Weaver than what we had against Fresno State. But now we've got to head into our bowl game for the season. Now, as we head into the first bowl week of this season, unfortunately, even though we got 6 wins, we did not get invited to a bowl game. I figured with us getting our 6th win on the season, we would have gotten invited to one, but it seems like it wasn't enough to get it done. I've gone through all these bowl games. We are not in any of them. So it looks like our season's going to end a little bit earlier than expected, but at least we have reached early National Signing Day, where I have landed my first 7 recruits of this rebuild. Both 3 stars ended up being impact developments, so their future here could become one of the brightest we have so far. Unfortunately, all the 2 stars ended up being normal except for this punter. And then a new story is brewing here. A 5-star athlete running back is on my board. I don't expect to land him, but no team in the country is giving him an offer yet. But I will say I'm not giving him an offer because I do not have 345 NIL points to spend. So we just got to hope that if we get enough influence, we can convince him to commit to our program by the end of the season. So we'll have to keep track of that throughout the transfer portal. But now, after ending our season a little bit early, we're going to head into the off season. Now, as we're heading to our first off season of this rebuild, we have to talk about who will be leaving our program. As unfortunately, our best defensive player who could have returned in Gordon Sims, he wanted about 100 NIL points. I was not willing to give that to him, so he will be going off to the transfer portal. Now, we weren't able to persuade him, but we were able to persuade Alex Bradley, who's only a 67 overall freshman, but he does have a ton of room to improve, mainly in his run blocking, and his pass blocking still has a decent chunk to improve on. But other than those guys, we lost a couple running backs, a tight end, some backup receivers. These are all low 60 overalls. They wouldn't have had much of an impact. But we did end up losing some seniors, some high 70 overalls, low 80 overalls. Unfortunately, nobody's going to get drafted. So our pro potential will not go up. If anything, it might go back down. But now we're going to go ahead, sim just one more week, and start our very first transfer portal. Now, as we're heading into our first week of the transfer portal, I've already gone on and set up my board full of 33 total recruits. But the first 8 of them are coming from high school, which leaves 25 total transfer portal targets. With the first couple being 2 quarterbacks, a running back, 6 offensive linemen, 4 edge rushers, 3 defensive tackles, 2 linebackers, 4 corners, and then 3 safeties to round out our board. Mainly focusing on that offensive and defensive line, as we lost a ton at those spots, even having some players who just weren't built for those positions. But now we're going to go ahead, sim to the final week of the transfer portal to see if I can land all 25 transfer portal players. Now, after going through the transfer portal, I have almost landed every recruit on my board. Of the 35 total prospects, the first 8 are coming from high school, as I've landed 7 out of 8 so far. This 5-star is currently uncommitted with 0 offers, but we have the most influence of any team on his board right now. We're still giving him a look with 50 recruiting hours and a ton of influence. Hopefully he's able to commit, as our running back room is a little bit thin right now. But we still haven't given him an offer, so if he were to commit, he shouldn't take any NIL from us. But now the big thing that could turn this program around in just one season is our transfer portal prospects, starting with 2 quarterbacks, a running back, 2 tight ends, 6 offensive linemen, 4 edge rushers, 3 defensive tackles, 2 linebackers, 2 corners, and 2 safeties. Unfortunately, 2 of our 4 corners are going off to Middle Tennessee State, and one of our safeties I was targeting is going off to Maryland. And this was a fairly solid class, as we were just outside the top of the Mountain West at 88th in the entire country, 7 spots behind UNLV. But this class was the cheapest out of any class, as we only spent 80 NIL points to bring in 7 3-stars and 24 2-stars. But this class could easily jump to the number 1 in the Mountain West if we're able to land that 5-star. It would be a huge shift for us. But with a pretty solid recruiting class, we're now going to go ahead and sim on to Season 2. Now, as we head into Season 2 here, coming off a 6-7 season, we should at least make a bowl game this season, as this roster's improved over 10 overall points, up to an 82 overall with an 84 overall offense and a 79 overall defense. With our 4 best players coming from the offensive side, starting with a receiver in Jordan Anderson, who's returning for his junior year, an 84 overall with 89 speed. But the man who's transferring in from Washington could be our best player in the future. It's the freshman running back, 83 overall, 88 speed for Sano. But our best offensive lineman is Tobias Raymond, who's already an 83 overall in his senior season, and he'll be blocking for the transfer from Kennesaw State and Ricky Collins. An 82 overall quarterback with 85 speed should better fit our scheme than what Luke Weaver was last season. But all those are offensive guys, but we still have the defensive side, as our best defensive players will be Clemens and the transfer safety, Caleb Harris. Both are an 82 overall, and Harris is our fastest defensive back at 91 speed. But for the rest of this roster, low 80 overalls will be the best players on our team, with some high 70 overalls and even mid 70 overalls will fill out the rest of the starting lineup. But for these low 70 overalls and high 60 overalls, they'll likely take backup roles this season as they take another year to develop. But for our schedule this season, as it's a little bit different from last year, taking on some new opponents, as we have another Week 0 game, this time at home versus North Texas, before nearly traveling across the country once again in Week 1 going to Minnesota. Then a bye week before coming back home for the Valley Cup, this time playing at Fresno State. Before our final bye week this season, then we have UNLV at Air Force, at Hawaii, and at UConn in our final non-conference matchup. Then we have home versus Nevada, home versus NIU, at North Dakota State, home versus New Mexico, and then at UTEP, our second and final game that we'll jump into. So after 2 home games last season, we'll have 2 away games this season. Looking for 2 wins this year, but the final thing we have is our staff. As nothing is changing for us, we still have that 5% off-season progression boost. We do have 2 new coaches, but they're only F-tier coaches, only level 16. They won't be much, just trying not to spend any NIL points. But the big thing is we have upgraded our facility to a premier facility. Trying to upgrade it to his elite as fast as possible, but that will likely come years and years later. But now we're going to go ahead, set up our board, and then sim to our very first game against North Texas. Now, as we head into Week 0 here, we only have one thing to talk about, but it's a very important one in our recruiting board for this season. As the school's only given us 300 hours, but we have a ton of prospects to go after, as I've already filled up my board full of just 3-star prospects. After targeting a ton of 2-stars last year, I want to take the step up and really run away with this Mountain West Conference. But the guys we're going after right now is a gem athlete, 6'5" contested specialist who has 94 speed. He could easily become one of our best receivers if we're able to land him, but we're also targeting a gem left tackle, a defensive tackle, 2 linebackers, and a corner. can't go after much with only 300 hours. But if we're able to start landing some of these guys, we've got some extra receivers, offensive line, and secondary help that we could go after later in the recruiting cycle. But now we've just got to sim a couple more weeks until we'll jump in and play our first game at Fresno State. Now, as we head into the Fresno State week here, we are unfortunately 0-2 on the season. I figured after the upgrades we made in the offseason, we'd have a little bit of a chance, but we've already turned the ball over 5 times in the first 2 games. Starting with a 24-21 loss at home versus North Texas, and then traveling to a now 16th ranked Minnesota team and losing 38-17. A couple of difficult matchups, so we've got to get back in the right direction here against Fresno. But now in the recruiting side of things, it's only been 3 weeks. There hasn't been much to really focus on, but we are first place on a couple boards. We're in a couple battles, mainly for Trinidad, this defensive tackle, and for Smith, this linebacker. Going back in for this corner now as well. So a lot of things to keep moving forward and looking forward to as we head throughout this season. Hopefully we can start landing some recruits by the midway point of this season. But now we've got to jump into this game to see if we can find our first win of the season and our very first rivalry win against the Bulldogs. 3rd and goal. Fresno going back to the air, dropping back, going over the middle of the field. We should have had him tackled down, but instead he's in the end zone, and Fresno will take the first 7 points of this rivalry game. 1st and goal from the 2. Gonna make some adjustments. Gonna try and see if McClure can run it out here. Try and get in the end zone. We're gonna drop back to pass. Just gotta go underneath. We'll have the running back instead. It's Sano into the end zone, and we'll tie this game up here very quickly. 2nd and 8 for Fresno. Looking like they're trying to go to the left side on a sweep here. They have Parker on the outside, and Parker's into the end zone for another Fresno touchdown. 1st and 10 for Fresno. Dropping back to pass, stepping up, looking for some over the middle of the field. They have an open receiver, and he's into the end zone. And Fresno's slowly starting to walk away with it before the end of the first half. On 4th and 3, Fresno will take 3 points to make it a 24-7 lead. 1st and goal from the 1. Going up the middle, Sano, and we're back into the end zone, and we're trying to claw our way back into this game before the 4th quarter. 1st and 10, and Fresno's going to the air, dropping back to pass, stepping up, taking a deep shot towards the sideline. How in the world are we allowing them to get open? And as soon as we finally get back on the scoreboard, Fresno goes all the way for 88 yards. 1st and 10. Dropping back to pass, trying to target our big tight end, and it's intercepted. This game's just ugly at this point, and it's going to be a pick 6, and we're basically done for. 2nd and 8, as this is likely the final play before the 2-minute warning. An RPO to the inside, and it doesn't even matter. It's another touchdown for Fresno, and they've completely run away with this game. 1st and 10 with about 9 seconds left. This could be our final play, but we're going to roll out with Carlisle using his 90 speed, and we'll just throw it up there, have some fun. And, of course, it's intercepted by Fresno. One of the worst games I could have played. We need to forget this game if we want a chance of getting back in the win column this season. But unfortunately, we're going to fall to 0-3, lose the Valley Cup for 2 straight years. Things have got to change, but if we let a quarterback complete every single pass, he didn't even throw a single incompletion, we're going to have these kinds of games. It's unfortunate, but we need to watch this game as we're heading to the midway point of the season, hopefully with our first win. Now, as we head into the middle of the season here, we have turned it around just a little bit as we are 2-1 in our last 3 games. After losing to Fresno State in week 3, we would have a bye week to get things back together before unfortunately losing at home versus UNLV by just 6 points. But in back-to-back weeks, we would travel to Air Force, get a 23-14 win, and then to Hawaii, getting our biggest win, 31-13. winning that trophy against Hawaii for 2 straight years before heading into our final non-conference game against UConn. We still have a chance of making a bowl game, but it's going to be extremely difficult now. Now for recruiting, unfortunately, we haven't landed anybody yet, as we've been ping-ponging back and forth between having a bunch of influence and then other teams taking over. For this athlete, we should be able to land him soon. This receiver, Maryland tries to give him an offer, and then they'll remove it, and then they'll come back. We should be able to land him as well. This defensive tackle, it's between us, Kansas, and Iowa. Everybody's got a visit, so based on how those games go, we should be able to land him, or Kansas will likely take over. We've also got this linebacker and this corner still to go after, and Notre Dame looks to be taking this right tackle from us. So things are going pretty bad right now, but we're looking to turn it around as we'll head to our final game of the season, where hopefully we're back on the right track. Now, as we head into our final week of the regular season, we have sort of clawed our way back as we are now 5-6. As after that midpoint that I gave the update, we were only 2-4, which means we've gone 3-2 in our past couple of games. But the reason for that is our quarterback change. As once we hit the midpoint, I knew Collins in his senior season wasn't getting it done, so I moved on to the freshman redshirt, Austin Carlisle, who's still an 80 overall, but is the fastest quarterback in the entire game with 93 speed. He also has better accuracy than Collins, so I was hoping that he could get it done even with his weak arm. And so far, he's done just that, as he's brought us back with a 3-2 record, as he would lose his first game at UConn by just 3 points, before coming back home for our biggest win of the season, 24-0 against Nevada, before unfortunately losing to one of the worst teams in our conference in NIU, 13-10. But then a win at North Dakota State, who was 9-1 at the time, and then a win at home versus New Mexico, 21-13. So a huge start. This game at UTEP could get us a bowl game, but I said that last season, and then we didn't get invited. But the final thing for this week is our recruiting, as we have finally landed our first recruits. A hard commit from Ham, the gem athlete, a verbal commit from Millard, but we should be able to land him as Maryland really hasn't taken his recruiting seriously. We have gotten a hard commit from Trinidad and Tolson, our first group of 3 stars, but we're also going after some 2-star athletes who could switch around and maybe be better at other positions. But now we've got to jump into our final game to see if we can possibly find a bowl game against UTEP. 2nd and goal from the 6. A handoff off to the left side goes Sano. We get beautiful blocks, and Sano's into the end zone to cap off a near 5-minute drive with a touchdown. 2nd and goal from the 4 now. After losing 3 yards on first down, trying to get us to jump off sides. They're going to drop back the pass, looking for something, going to the end zone. It's caught through contact, and this game will be tied up at 7. 1st and 10 in the red zone. We got him to jump off, but I guess they didn't call for it. But it's Sano up the middle. Sano to the 5. Sano to the end zone, and we'll take our touchdown lead right back. 1st and 10 with about 3 minutes left. Back up the middle we go for Sano. Sano to the 5. Sano with a juke into the end zone for another touchdown. Our lead is now 14 points. 1st and 10 with about 90 seconds left. We're dropping back to pass, targeting the big tight end. That should be Ford. Ford's out there, and he's into the end zone. Our lead is now 3 touchdowns. 1st and goal. Trying to find somebody as they're wide open in the back of the end zone for a UTEP touchdown. And our lead's been cut in half. 4th and inches from the 2. Even if we were to turn the ball over, we'll be in a good spot. But we're going with the direct to Sano, and Sano's into the end zone. And now we've put up 35 on this UTEP defense. 1st and goal from the 6. We're going to try and send the house here. They're keeping on the ground with the quarterback. Nobody's on him, and he's into the end zone for another UTEP rushing touchdown. 4th and 10 for UTEP. This is likely the final play of the game as we've got 5 seconds left. They're dropping back, throwing it into quadruple coverage. Nobody's going to come down with the ball, But we'll end this game with a 31-21 win. A much different game from the Fresno game. Hopefully, Carlisle will return as he really turned our season around. But now, with a 6-6 record, we might have a bowl game, we might not. But off the back of Sano's 218-yard, 4-touchdown performance, we'll head into what could be our first bowl game. Now, as we head into bowl week 2 here, we did get an invite to a game this year. It will be the Reliquist Bowl against 17th ranked USC. A game that we're likely not going to win, but it's still a bowl game, should be good enough for our prestige. But one thing I forgot to check last season was our receiving yard leader. I know for sure we didn't lead last year, as McClure leads this team this season with just under 900 receiving yards, and Anderson had 830. A big difference in touchdowns, too. McClure had 8, and Anderson had 0, with only a 60 receiving yard difference. None of these receivers were even close to the top of college football. As when we go down here, the guy who led all of college football was well over 1,000 receiving yards. 1,447 from Cluse out at Memphis. Jacobs behind him under 1,400. So we weren't close yet. Still need some guy to step into this program to become the top dog. But now we're just going to jump into this game to see if we can get the upset of the rebuild so far against a top 20 USC team. We'll jump into this game with under 2 minutes left on the clock. A keeper on the ground for Carlisle. He's going to fumble the football. And that about sums up our game. Coming off a USC offensive touchdown, the first play goes for a USC defensive touchdown. He hits the Heisman pose. USC's lead will grow to 36-0 with a PAT to make it 37, as we haven't been able to do anything all game long. Had a couple of fourth downs that didn't go our way. Obviously, USC's put up a ton of touchdowns, but now they'll send it back to us. Maybe in these final 90 seconds we can find 3 points, as we're going to return it from the end zone. We're not even across the 10. Why even return it at that point? But we'll start from the 9 with 91 yards to go. It's almost impossible to avoid another 6-7 season as Carlisle's getting swarmed. He almost walked into the back of the end zone, but it's a USC sack. A huge loss of 7, as now we're taking the snap from our own end zone inside the final minute. Carlisle's going to need something to go his way here. Instead, we're going to go with the handoff up the middle to the freshman running back who crosses the 10, as that's Zeke Clay on the ground, getting over 10 yards in this Reliquist Bowl. But we're inside the final 20 seconds of our bowl game. Kind of how I expected this thing to go. As now on 3rd and 9, we're letting this clock run all the way down. Inside the final 10 seconds, Carlisle going over the middle of the field. That ball could have been intercepted. But instead, it's a 4th down, and we're not even going to go for it. With 7 seconds left, we'll give the ball back to USC. Hopefully they can run the rest of this clock out and just end our season. He'll receive it from the opposite 40, going back to the logo, where USC will put their stamp on this game. 37-0. Now, as we head into the first week of the offseason here, we're going to take a look at our players leaving, as there was only 5 players who wanted to leave, but the 2 we tried to convince, they ended up staying. Tapu and Carlisle both had a high chance of persuasion, and they both wanted to stay. And the reason for that, Tapu, we weren't giving him any NIL money, but because of our conference prestige, he wanted to stay. And then Carlisle wanted to leave because of conference prestige, but after giving him 205 NIL points, he ended up staying. But for the players who are going to leave, we're going to lose a receiver, a center, and a linebacker. All of those players were backups, likely not wanting to see the field. But for the big ones who are going to leave off for graduation, a couple of high 70s, mainly those low 80 overalls who are graduating this year, losing a quarterback, some defensive backs, defensive tackles. Those are the big positions that we're going to have to focus on in the transfer portal. But before we go to it, I want you guys to take a look at the top right. The reason I was able to spend 205 points for Carlisle is because we have now over 1,500 NIL points. And before last week, we had over 2,000. And the reason for that is our AD expectations. They are giving out over 1,000 points for winning 75% of conference games and upgrading our facilities to premier facilities. So this is a huge boost. We are going to spend a ton of money in the transfer portal this offseason. But now we're going to go ahead, sim just one more week, and start our spending spree in the transfer portal. Now, as we head into the very first week of the transfer portal, unfortunately, we had nobody get drafted, so we're just going to take a look at our transfer portal board. A board where I've basically only added 3 stars, with 1 2-star and a 4-star being the only exceptions. But it starts with 3 running backs, with one of them being that 2-star. He just had a ton of production. Then 2 receivers, with that 4-star being the receiver from Alabama. Was insane for them last year, having well over 1,000 receiving yards. Maybe I could bring him in and we could start our receiver train of starting to become one of the best units in all of college football. This is where I'm spending most of my money. I am giving out at least 5 NIL points to really start to influence people, see if we can bring in the brand new group of superstars to this program. But for the rest of the board, a tight end, 6 offensive linemen, an edge rusher, 3 defensive tackles, 6 linebackers, as well as 2 corners, and 5 safeties. A ton of help on the defense, a ton of help in our running back room and receiver room, a full board. Trying to bring in as much talent as we can. If a school starts going after some of these guys, I'm probably going to take off some, try and go after others, continue to spend all this NIL budget that I have been given. But now we're going to go ahead, sim to our very final week of offseason recruiting once again to see if I can land another full board. Now, after going through 4 weeks of the transfer portal, I ended up landing a decent chunk of players on my board. Unfortunately, we also lost a ton, but for the guys that we landed, the first 6 came from high school, 4 3-stars and 2 2-stars. But the big thing, once again, was the transfer portal, landing 3 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, 4 offensive linemen, an edge rusher, a defensive tackle, 6 linebackers, a corner, and 3 safeties. Unfortunately, we lost 2 offensive tackles, 2 defensive tackles, a linebacker, 2 corners, and a safety. A very tough way to lose a ton of really offensive and defensive production, but we still ended up with the number 1 class in the Mountain West, cracking the top 50 for the first time with 24 3-stars and 3 2-stars. Once again, not spending that much NIL. We did spend the 3rd most in the conference, but it's still only 420 NIL points. Still with almost 1,000 left over, but now we've got a sim on to season 3. Now, as we start off season 3 here, we're heading into the season that, in my opinion, should be the real takeover of our time in the Mountain West, as this roster is up to an 87 overall with an 86 overall offense and an 89 overall defense. A complete flip-flop of what we had last year, as last year our offense was much better, but this year it's going to be our defense stealing the show. But on the offensive side of the ball, it's our best player on our roster in Austin Carlisle. The fastest quarterback in all of college football is now up to 81 throw power and maxed out accuracy. So we likely won't have many deep shots downfield this season, but if we need somebody to get the ball in our receivers' hands, he should be the one to do it. And it's a great year to start trying to go for that number 1 receiver in all of college football, as Jordan Anderson, our number 1 receiver, is up to an 86 with 89 speed. Coming off a huge season, he's only improved and should be fantastic next to Barnett and Brown, his wide receiver 2 and 3. Brown's got 93 speed. He's the fastest receiver on our roster. But even if our passing game isn't working, Sano has come back for another season. He's an 84 overall, but this year with 91 speed. Should be great on the offensive side. Our best lineman taking over for our guard last season is Ataya. He's up to an 85 overall. So he should be good on the offense. But there's a reason that this defense is an 89 overall, as Taylor, the transfer from Georgia, the strong safety, is up to an 86 overall with 92 speed. Was great in the SEC last year. Should be fantastic now that he's in the Mountain West. But for Nichols, our number one corner, he's 84 speed. It's actually 84 overall with 90 speed, has great coverage stats. And for the rest of this roster, some low 80 overalls, high 70 overalls, might even sit the bench this season. And then definitely for sure the mid 70 overalls, high 60 overalls, and even mid 60 overalls will definitely be sitting the bench this season. But one thing I do want to bring up heading into this season is a position group that I'm a little worried about, and that's our defensive tackles, as our highest overall is only a 75 overall, and we only have 4 defensive tackles at this group. So if there was something to go wrong on this team, it would be the run defense up the middle. But now for our schedule, that we should be able to come out with a lot of wins this season, as we have 3 straight out of conference games. Week 1 at home versus Rutgers, then at Cal in week 2, and home versus Toledo in week 3. Then we have a bye week heading into conference play where we have 8 straight games in conference play. First at home versus UTEP, then at New Mexico, at Nevada, home for Wyoming, at Hawaii, home for North Dakota State, at NIU, and home for UNLV. We should be able to at least go 6-2 in conference play and likely to find ourselves in the Mountain West Conference Championship. But our final game on the season will be at Stanford in our first rivalry game against the Trees. We are going to jump in and play this game. This will be our second game, as our first game will be in week 2 at Cal. 2 more games on the road this season, trying to win a game in California this season, as we were unable to beat Fresno in both years. So 2 out of conference games, a rivalry game, and a game against Cal should be good. Hopefully we can get 2 out of conference wins. But the final update for season 3 is our brand new staff. After upgrading our facilities last year and getting a higher team prestige, we can now hire 2 silver tier coaches. In a 10% off-season progression increase, going up from 5%, and then a dynasty point increase. Should give us an extra 500 points going into next season as we continue to upgrade this program. But now, we've got to set up our recruiting board and hopefully start off season 3 with a couple of wins. Now, as we head into week 2 here, we are going to jump in and play against Cal. But before that, we've got a couple of updates. I did just sim right by week 0 because with us playing 2 weeks into the season, I'll give my recruiting update now. As in this season, we're starting to go after the big name players who can really turn this program around. So mainly I'm only going after 3 stars with a 4-star here who has no offers from schools, but unfortunately our playing style is already down below his threshold. But if we are able to land him, he has 94 throw power with 82 speed, already has some solid accuracies. So in this game against Cal, we've got to throw the ball around. But for the rest of the guys on the board, we've got 2 receivers, with one of them having 96 speed. We have to land him to try and bring him into this offense. He would be insane trying to throw the ball downfield. But we've also got an athlete tight end, an athlete edge rusher with 85 speed. Would be insane off the edge in this defense. But we also have a defensive tackle and a lurking linebacker that we're targeting. So a ton of superstars that could really take over the Mountain West. But now for the second update is our first game that we had against Rutgers at home, where we kind of got destroyed. It was only a 33-14 loss, but we turned the ball over 2 times, couldn't move the ball downfield, went 0 for 5 on 4th downs. Just was not great for us in our first game against a Big Ten opponent. But now we can turn things around as we jump into this game, as we are still looking to get a win against a team in California. This game will start with a 4th and 8 for Cal. A little bit of a decently far field goal in the rain, but it's right down the middle, and Cal will have a 3-0 lead. 3rd and goal for Cal from the 2. Trying to get him down as they're going play action. Rolling out to the left side. Can we keep him out? No, he pushes his way into the end zone, and Cal will take a double-digit lead. 2nd and goal from the 7. Needing a touchdown on this drive. We're going over the middle of the field. That's Barnett into the end zone, and we'll match Cal's touchdown and bring it back within 3 points. Hurry up offense for Cows. It's now 2nd and 7. They're dropping back to pass, looking for somebody to step up. Going deep down the field, targeting Brown over the top. It's going to be batted down and intercepted by Taylor. The transfer from Georgia, looking for some space, and Taylor will cut all the way across to the right side. And this game is flipped on its head as we have a touchdown and now a pick six from Ivan Taylor. 2nd and 5 for Cal with about 42 seconds left. They're dropping back to pass, stepping up, taking a deep shot down the middle of the field, inside the 5 into the end zone, and Cal will take the lead just before the end of this first half. 3rd and 6 now from the 13. Another pass for Cal, going on the inside, somehow catching that ball through contact, and it's another Cal touchdown to give them a 10-point lead. 1 second left. Going up the middle, Clay, and Clay is into the end zone for a touchdown. And we'll make it a 3-point game once again with our third touchdown of the game. On 4th and 2, Cal will take a field goal to make it a 6-point game. We'll come out here on 1st and 10 for a Cal knee. A close game. We're getting closer to winning our first game that we jump into. 27-21 as Cal takes it down. It was raining for the first 3.5 quarters. Really put our offense on ice skates. Even our defense is, I don't even know how many incompletions we allowed the Cal quarterback to throw, but it wasn't many. We had that pick six, but other than that, they were near perfect through the air. A rough game for us to start out with. We're 0-2 against Power 4 teams, but now we've got to hit the midpoint of the season. Now, as we hit the midpoint of our season here, thankfully, we have turned it around. After starting 0-2 and losing a close game to Cal, we have won 5 straight games. Starting the week right after our Cal loss at home versus Toledo, winning 43-7. Before our first bye week of the season, starting our 8 straight conference games where we beat UTEP 35-30, at New Mexico 30-13, at Nevada 38-20, home for Wyoming in the most recent week 24-13. So we're starting to pile up wins on this board, slowly starting to meet my goals for this season and our AD expectations as they expect us to win every single conference game this season for another 500 NIL points. But the big thing for us has been recruiting so far. Unfortunately, we've kind of hit a brick wall, but we did land our first commit in Marquise Blanco. He is a 3-star receiver with 89 speed as a speedster, but his 94 acceleration should be solid. But unfortunately, we have lost some superstars. This 3-star gem tight end who was above 85 speed, he's actually at 86. And then this defensive tackle who was all around a great gap specialist at 6'6". And it looks like we might lose our 96 speed speedster as he did lock us out for a while due to playing style, but we recently, after a couple of good games, can finally have a chance, but it looks like he might be heading off to Hawaii. But we've also added some extra 4-stars, as unfortunately, Yates has put us back in second place after we finally got back into his playing style deal breaker, but LSU with that 3-star pipeline has taken a huge lead. We also added a 4-star gem receiver, who we're the only one giving him an offer so far so he could fill in the place for Gouda. But we also have a 4-star edge rusher here. It's currently between us and Texas Tech, who's only giving an offer with no hours. So there's a lot happening on this board right now. But those are the updates so far this season, and hopefully we can keep our undefeated conference games alive. And we've got to sim to our final week where we'll play against Stanford. Now, as we head into our final regular season game, we have a few major updates. As for the first time in this rebuild, the Spartans are inside the top 25 at number 20 in the entire country. As after our first 2 out-of-conference losses, we would rattle off 9 straight wins. The wins that you guys already know about is the Toledo one, UTEP, New Mexico, Nevada, and Wyoming. But after that, we've rattled off 4 more. At Hawaii, 59-21. Home for North Dakota State, 17-10. At Northern Illinois, 24-3. And then home for UNLV, 34-31. But with that, and 8 straight conference wins, we are guaranteed a spot in the Mountain West Conference Championship game. We will have our very first conference championship game and maybe a spot in the college football playoffs. As looking at the current top 25, the only group of 5 team that is ranked above us is UAB, as they're inside the top 10 at number 8. So if they have any more slip ups and we continue to win, we could take their spot. But the final update is recruiting, as we haven't had much since the midpoint. Blanco is still committed, but we do have 2 more. One of them being a verbal commit in James Duke, the 4-star gem edge rusher. It's between us and Louisville just took Texas Tech's top spot, so we're likely going to land Duke. But a hard commit as a 3-star athlete, speed rusher with 85 speed has also committed. Him and Duke could be disgusting off the edge in the future. But we're also going after a 3-star tackle, a 3-star tight end, and still this 4-star receiver, as we're most likely going to land this receiver, but it's up for grabs for this tight end and this right tackle. But now, we've got to jump into this game to see if we can get our first rivalry win against Stanford. First and goal from the 1. After the pass interference, we're looking for the first points of the game. It's Sano bullying his way forward into the end zone, and we'll take the first 7 points of this rivalry game. First and 10 for Stanford. Just shy of their own 40 now as they're going to make an adjustment. We're going to make a similar adjustment, moving guys across the field here. They are dropping back to pass, taking a deep shot down the top of the field. They have an open receiver, and he's going to walk all the way to the end zone for a long Stanford touchdown to tie this game up. 2nd and inches, and it looks like Stanford might be trying to send pressure. Looks like they are. We've got to scramble out, try and get out there. Carlisle's got a ton of speed. He's going to take off and go. Carlisle in his 93 speed is going to go 30 yards to the end zone, and we'll take our lead just before the end of the first half. A field goal for Stanford to end this first half. We'll have a 4-point lead. In a 4-point game, we'll send it deep to Stanford from their own end zone. They'll return it out. He's going to fumble the football, and we're going to recover it, and it's going to go all the way into the end zone, and somehow, to start this second half, will end up with a touchdown. 3rd and 4, Stanford going back to the air, dropping all the way back. Hannon's going to step up and take off. Hannon, another juke. Hannon reaching out. He's going to fumble the football, and we're going to get our second straight drive with a fumble. 1st and 10 after another Stanford fumble. Going up the middle out to the outside. Sano with a beautiful cut. And we've turned 2 Stanford fumbles into 2 San Jose touchdowns. 2nd and 4. This looks to be a direct snap to the running back. Hannon just off-centered as it is. Straight to the running back up the middle. He's finding some space. We're tripping over our own feet. And it looks like another Stanford touchdown will go all the way across the field. 74 yards, and Stanford gets a touchdown back. 3rd and goal for Stanford. Dropping back to pass. Hannon's going to roll out to the right side. He's finding a wide open man in the end zone. And Stanford has somehow clawed their way back into this game. The 2-point try for Stanford from the 3. Up the middle with the run game, and they're into the end zone, and it's a 3-point game. On 4th and goal, Stanford looks to tie this game up at 28. We'll come out here on 4th and goal with 13 seconds left and the clock being stopped to take our final field goal and give us a 3-point lead. A 1st and 10 with 11 seconds left for Stanford. They're dropping back to pass, sending everybody deep. Hannon's going one-on-one over the top. We should have guys out there. And a jumping interception to end this game with 4 seconds left. We'll come out here on 1st and 10 to take a knee after the interception. That will end this game. And for the 3rd straight year, After we lose the first game that we jump into, we win our final game of the season, this time getting our first Bill Walsh legacy game win as Sanu went for nearly 230 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. Didn't have as good of a game in the air, but an overall solid victory to get us to 10 wins, our first 10-win season of this rebuild. But now we've just got to hope that with the Mountain West Championship game in front of us, we can find the playoffs. Now, as we head into our very first conference championship game, we, after leading the entire Mountain West Conference in wins, will be taking on North Dakota State, a 6-2 team that we have beat this season. It wasn't our best win, but it was a 17-10 win on our home turf. So now that it's being played at a neutral site, it could go either way. But with no real updates, as we haven't landed anybody new in recruiting, we're just going to jump straight into this game to see if we can bring home our very first Mountain West championship. Now, as we jump into this game here, going to go with a handoff to Sanu, who's going to lose a ton of yards on that play, as there's another timeout for North Dakota State just before the 2-minute warning in a boring game, to say the least. 4 field goals, 3 of them going our way, 1 of them going the Bison's way as play action going underneath. I don't know how that was caught, but we're inside the 10, and there's the 2-minute warning. If we get in the end zone, we should be able to end this game, go into our bowl game with 11 wins, as now from the 6. 3rd and 6, we're going with a handoff to Sanu. He's going nowhere. There's another Bison timeout. Believe that's their final. As we're inside 2 minutes now, and we'll bring out the field goal unit for the 5th of this game. And it's right down the middle for a 12-3 lead, and that may have just shut the door on the Bison, as they would need 2 scores somehow in the next minute 54, and we're sending it deep. Returning it from their end zone, as it looks like they're not. They called for a fair catch, and they'll start from the 25. Their offense has already struggled to get down the field so far, but this time they're going with a handoff out to the left side. And as soon as I'm talking about their offense, they're going down the sideline across the opposite 35. Mitchell with his best run of the game, and everybody's getting back to the line. North Dakota State seeing if they have a chance. Maybe they could put up a field goal and go for an onside. But they're back on the ball, dropping back to pass, going over the middle of the field. He's finding space, finding a first down. Did he get inside the 20? And it looks like he's just outside. As that one interception for the North Dakota State quarterback has been haunting him so far. But now on 1st and 10, another pass in an empty backfield, trying to step up, looking for space, and he's going to take a sack. A really bad loss at this stage of the game pushes them back 4, and they've got to get back to the line. 80 seconds left, 2nd and 14, going over the middle of the field, looking to get those sack yards back, but he'll only get half of them, as Goldberg is now just shy of 150 yards passing. 3rd and 12, dropping all the way back to pass here, trying to step up, going to go towards that sideline, a bad throw, as his running back will fall out of bounds, and it's 4th and 12, and we're looking for our 6th field goal of this game. And it's right down the middle. It will cut our lead to 6, but they have to go for an onside now. With under a minute, if they return, they have a chance, but the ball will bounce up. It's recovered by the very first guy to put a hand on the ball, and we'll have a 1st and 10. It will bring out the offense to take a knee, and we'll win our very first Mountain West Conference championship with a knee. Is this enough to get us into the college football playoffs? I don't know. UAB would have likely had to lose their last 2 games, but for us, we're at least getting a solid bowl game as we end our season 11-2, heading into our bowl game with a 12-6 victory over the Bison. Now, after claiming our very first Mountain West Conference Championship game, we will be taking on FIU in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. It's not the high-tier opponent that I wanted to face, as FIU is only 6-6 and went 4-4 in conference play. But with us not getting that final group of 5 college football playoff spot as UAB ended up winning one of their two final games and claiming that final spot. We've been forced to play in this bowl game, but before we jump in, we have one more thing to talk about, is our 3 recruits that have signed so far for early National Signing Day. Blanco will be a star, could be the best player out of this class, but also Duke has something to say as he's impact, still that 4-star gem, but unfortunately Costanzo is only normal development. But with 85 speed, he should still be good, and hopefully Veal can commit soon, but Washington's trying to come back into this recruiting process. But that's the only things that we have for this week. So now we're just going to jump into this game to see if we can get a win in the snow. We'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 from our own end zone, unfortunately, as that's a beautiful pass out to the tight end. Get us a 1st down, but unfortunately it might not mean much as we are down by 14 points on the blue turf. And it seems like there's no more snow that I was expecting for this game as Carlisle's dropping back to pass. He's got to watch out as they're sending pressure, but he's going over the middle of the field. He's found a wide open receiver. Does he have enough speed to go all the way as he's already crossed the opposite 30, 15, 5, and to the end zone? And we slowly might be starting to get some momentum back in this game as we found the end zone. A great play for Carlisle as soon as we jump into this game, and it's just before the 2-minute warning. Unfortunately, we're all out of timeouts, so we might have to go for an onside. As the PAT is good, and it looks like we are going for an onside. It hits the ground, bounces up for the second line. It'll be recovered by FIU, and they'll start their drive from the 45. With that 2-minute warning, it could save us from having to let FIU take a knee as they're going with a handoff out to the left side. It gets nothing. It gets swallowed up, and we'll hit the 2-minute warning. The time will stop, and it's 2nd and 14, and FIU now needs a 1st down. As it looks like it's going to be a keeper. He gets slammed. Moore goes down. 3rd and 16 now as the clock continues to roll for FIU. They can run off as much time as they want. And it's another handoff. We'll swarm it up immediately. A great drive there from our defense as FIU has to punt it away. And we'll likely get the ball back with under 40 seconds left. As they'll punt it from their own 35. And it looks like they'll let it go out of bounds. It's a perfect punt. Pin us inside our 11. And we've got to go 89 yards. We did it on the last drive. Can we do it again? Carlisle going to the outside, but it's batted down at the line. 2nd and 10 now. We don't want to lose our season here as we're going to drop back to pass once again. Carlisle stepping up, looking to take off. He gets flattened now, and it's 3rd and 10. I hope it's not his final game, but it might be Carlisle's final game in a Spartans uniform. He's dropping back to pass once again, running out of time. He's taking a sack, and we've got 4th and 19, and everybody's back to the line as Carlisle's in his own end zone. We're just going to have to send the ball deep, and it's not great when Carlisle only has 81 throw power. He's stepping up. Is he going to take off? He will take off. What are we doing? As he gets slammed. There's 4 seconds left. And FIU will just take a knee. They don't want to go for the end zone in the final 4 seconds. And somehow, some way, we're going to lose this game. After a perfect season in the Mountain West, our season will come to an end with an 11-3 record, a 20-13 final score to FIU. A bad taste, a bad way to end our season. But now we've got to head into our biggest offseason of this rebuild so far. Now, as we hit the week just before the transfer portal, we only have a few players leaving the program once again this year. It's going to be Carlisle. Like I said in the FIU game, I expected him to leave. He's going off to the NFL draft in the 4th round. Barnett's going to conference prestige. Clay's going because of playing time. But we did convince Ha and Carners to stay. Ha was the big one for me because of his impact development. A freshman already up to a 79 overall. I needed him to stay. That's exactly what he did, but unfortunately we're also losing another edge rusher in Randall and Meekins at the right guard spot. We're also losing a ton of solid production players off to graduation. Anderson, the biggest one, at an 86. Some mid to high 70s, even low 80s, as we have Taylor, the transfer who came in from Georgia, is going off to the draft in the 4th round. Hopefully, with all these players leaving, we should be getting a ton of NIL budget back for the transfer portal. So we're just going to go ahead and sim to see how much budget we will have for our transfer portal. And after simming just 1 week, we had just under 700 total NIL points, and I've gone on and spent just about 200 of it. As in this transfer portal, it's our biggest one so far, and I have only targeted 3 stars. I don't want to take too many risks, as I need to fill up this roster with as much talent as possible. And in doing so, I've targeted a quarterback, a running back, 2 receivers, 10 offensive linemen. The biggest position of need is that offensive line, and we're trying to bulk it up here in this transfer portal. But we're also targeting an edge rusher, 3 defensive tackles, 6 linebackers, 3 corners, and 4 safeties, as well as a kicker, but that will come later in the transfer portal. A lot of talent needs to commit to this San Jose State program if we really want to go all out next season. But we also had some players get drafted for the first time in this rebuild, as Carlisle, the sophomore, went in the 4th round, Taylor, the safety, went in the 4th as well, and Nichols, the corner, also went in the 7th. So we're finally starting to get some players drafted in our big transfer portal now, but we're going to go ahead, sim to the final week of the transfer portal to see if I can finally land a board of 35 total recruits. After 4 weeks of going through the transfer portal, easily the most stressful transfer portal, but luckily I got through with 33 of 35 total recruits. The first 4 of them coming from high school, and a 4-star receiver, a 3-star receiver, a 4-star edge rusher, and a 3-star athlete. That's just from the high school prospects, but the big thing was the transfer portal. We got a quarterback, a running back, 2 receivers, all 10 offensive linemen, an edge rusher, 3 defensive tackles, 5 linebackers, 3 corners, 2 safeties, and a kicker. Unfortunately, I lost a linebacker to Arizona State and a safety to Wake Forest. And as you may see, I did have to start going after 2 stars. Didn't want to take any risk. I needed to bring in as much talent to this roster as I could. Once again, inside the top 50, spending almost half of what UNLV spent, as I landed 2 4-stars, 11 3-stars, and 20 2-stars. So not as many 3-stars as what I would have liked to have landed, not as much as we landed last season, but still a very solid class. And now we're going to go ahead, upgrade this team once again, and then head into Season 4. Now, as we start off Season 4 here, for the first time in this rebuild, we are ranked inside the preseason top 25, currently at the number 23 spot in the entire country. And for once again, it is for great reason, as we are above a 90 overall for the first time, currently at a flat 91 overall on both sides of the ball. And once again, our best players on the offensive side, as Sano is all the way up above a 90 overall, coming off the best season any players had on this roster, as he was 3rd in the entire country in rushing yards. As I forgot to update you guys last season about our receivers, but once again, we had nobody go over 1,000 yards. So maybe we might have to change that challenge from getting the number 1 receiver in all of college football to getting the most rushing yards in all of college football. If Sano can do it this season, maybe we can just check off that challenge. But we also have some receivers who might be able to go for that number 1 challenge, as Clark and Barton are both above an 87 overall, also above 89 speed. But our fastest guy is Avery Duke. He's only an 85 overall, but he's got 93 speed, the fastest receiver in our room. And in order to get the ball in those guys' hands, we have to have great offensive line blocking for our quarterback, as Boyle, LePeau, Bradley, and Connors are all above an 84 overall on that offensive line. And even our center, Silva. So our entire offensive line is above an 84 overall. But we still got the defensive side of the ball, as Ricky Williams is our number 1 guy at an 87 overall with 80 speed, a lurking linebacker who could lead the conference in picks. But we've also got a corner, Derek Johnson, transferring in from Oklahoma, and he's not the only one. Krim's another solid corner. We've got some solid linebackers, safeties, defensive tackles, great guys all throughout this roster. Those low 80 overalls, the high 70 overalls should really fill out every single position. Make sure we have plenty of depth this year. No real position groups that I'm worried about like those defensive tackles last year. But one thing that could trip us up is our brand new quarterback. After losing Carlisle to the draft, Carnegie's going to have to take that number one spot. We recruited him in season one. He is a 6'4" pocket passer, so he's going to be a little bit different in this offense. But I did switch our playbook from a run and shoot playbook to a veer and shoot. It's kind of similar. We'll use more tight ends and running backs rather than receivers, so it could change up our style of play, but I think it will better fit Carnegie's play style. We might switch it back to that run and shoot San Jose State playbook, but we need these guys to get it done, and I think that playbook will help us the most. But the reason I focus so much on Sano as being our number one player is he is currently the favorite for the Heisman Trophy. Like I said, he was third in the entire country in rushing yards. So he will be a big focus in this offense this season. But now we'll finally get into our schedule, as it's definitely our easiest that we've had so far, starting at Fresno in week one in the Valley Cup. Trying to win our first Valley Cup, as we've lost the first two times. So we are going to jump in and play this game at Fresno. Then we have at Oregon State, home for Wyoming, at Air Force, home for Akron, at Nevada, at Hawaii, and then our top 20 game for the season, it will be home against Utah. This will be our second game that we jump into and play, which means we will not have a mid-season update here in this season. What we're going to do is go through our bye week, home for UTEP, at UNLV, home for North Dakota State, home for New Mexico, and then we will give our update. Whether that is in the Mountain West Conference Championship, whether that's at our bowl game, whether it's in the college football playoffs, or whether our season is just over, that will be our update. It will be after this New Mexico game, no matter what. A huge step up for us. Hopefully, we can finally squeak our way into the college football playoffs. But the last thing is our staff. We have not changed anything from last season. We still have that 10% progression boost and those extra 500 NIL points. So we won't go over that. What we're going to do is set up our board and then head to week one, where we'll jump in and see if we can finally take down Fresno State. Now, as we hit our first week of this season, we are going to jump in and play this game against Fresno State, but we've got to talk about our recruiting board first. As for this season, once again, only targeting 3 stars, trying to land more high school prospects this year so we don't have to worry about the transfer portal as much as we've had in previous years of this rebuild. But for now, we have a quarterback, a guard, 2 defensive tackles, a linebacker, 2 corners, a safety, and then we've got 2 edge rushers down here, but I haven't scouted them yet, so I can only really go after them later in the recruiting cycle. Mainly trying to find those gems, as both corners, both defensive tackles, and this guard are all gems. Also looking at some athletes who could have higher abilities, but we're just going to go ahead and jump into this game to see if we can finally win a game against Fresno State. 1st and 10. Keeping it on the ground. We get beautiful blocks. Sano up the middle. Sano crossing midfield. Makes a man miss, and he's going to go all the way to the end zone and start this game with a 60-yard touchdown. On 4th and 3, Fresno will find their first 3 points of the game. We'll start this second quarter with a longer field goal than what we should have had, but it gives us our 7-point lead back. 2nd and 7. Still trying to find Carnegie his first college passing touchdown, and we might have it here in the front of the end zone, and it's Clark. A 3rd touchdown here the first quarter. We're destroying Fresno early. 3rd and 4 from the 23. Back to the air for Fresno. Looking for the sideline, running out of space. Ha's going to cough up the football, and we're going to recover inside the Fresno 10. Another turnover for Fresno, and we'll start up the middle on 1st and 10. Sano with a ton of speed and a lot of cuts, and he's going to find the end zone on our very first play for our third touchdown of the game. 3rd and 7, dropping back to pass, looking for somebody, trying to find anybody, and he's going to find an open receiver. We're missing tackles, and Fresno State's going to find a 72-yard touchdown to try and claw their way back into this game. On 2nd and goal with 2 seconds left, don't want to risk not getting any points, so we'll take a field goal to end this half up 17. 1st and 10 for Fresno from the 12. Go with an RPO out to the left side. Can we get out there in time? They're breaking out of a tackle and finding their way into the end zone to cut our lead back to 10. 1st and 10. Going with a touch pass here as it's Duke out to the outside. Duke looking for blocks. Duke's going to find it. A cut inside the 10, and Duke will walk all the way into the end zone, and we'll take our 17-point lead back. 2nd and 12 from the 33. Trying to get us to jump off sides. They're going to motion a tight end here. Going all the way to the outside. Going to dump it out there to the running back. Why can I not get off the block? As he's going to break a tackle, go across the 20, and all the way to the end zone. And Fresno has a couple of long passing touchdowns in this game. 4th and 14 for Fresno. And it looks like they'll get this game back within single digits. A return for Millard. We're going to need a good one. As we're going up the middle, and we might have it for Millard. We've had good returns all day, but this might be the first one that goes for a touchdown. Millard across the 10 and all the way to the end zone, and we'll take our double-digit lead back as our lead is now 14. 1st and 10 now for Fresno, back to the air. Looking for somebody to make a play. They're going to go out to the right side this time. He's going to fumble the football, and it's picked up by San Jose, and we finally get a Fresno turnover. 1st and 10 in a dangerous spot for Fresno in their own end zone. A keeper with a quarterback. He's not even going to get out of the end zone, and it's a safety to give us a 3-score lead, and Fresno's game is likely over. We'll come out for a 2nd and 3 after the 2-minute warning. We could just take a knee, but I want 50 points. And we're going with a stretch play out Sano to the outside. And we're going to find it on this play as Sano's going to cap off his insane day with another touchdown. And we're going to go for 50 points. We're inside the final 5 seconds. This is likely the last play of the game as everybody's going to the end zone. Hendricks is going to step up right into the hands of Williams. It's a user lurk, and we'll finally get an interception in this game. An insane way to cap off an insane rivalry game. 50-27 will be the final score. Multiple turnovers of Fresno, a ton of fumbles, an interception to end it. Over 300 yards on the ground for Sano. 3 touchdowns as well. The Heisman frontrunner right now just had his best game of his college career. Hopefully he can keep that #1 spot, and hopefully this win will help us try and get an undefeated regular season, as now we have to head to the game against Utah. Now, as we head into our game versus Utah, unfortunately for them, they are now unranked after a 4-2 start. But for us, the only 7-0 team in the entire country gets the 10 spot, as we are one of 3 Group of 5 teams currently in the top 25, as Boise's down there at 18 and Washington State's up there at 23. 2 Pac-12 teams. We're the only Mountain West team, but for our 7 wins, we obviously had that Fresno game that we won 50-27 before traveling to Oregon State, winning 38-10, home for Wyoming in our closest game so far, and it was 18 points, 42-24. Then at Air Force, 51-0 before home for Akron, 38-16, at Nevada, 59-7, and then at Hawaii in the most recent week, 52-21. One of the best scoring offenses in the entire country, averaging well over 40 points per game. But our best side of the ball has been the defense, as we are now up to a 94 overall defense. insane stuff from this team. But I do want to take a look at the stats so far. As with a quarterback change, Carnegie taking over, he's already up to 2,000 passing yards with 22 touchdowns. But those 7 interceptions are starting to worry me just a little bit. Could have more chances to slip up. But for Sano, he fell out of the top 4 for Heisman, but he's already over 1,000 with 9 touchdowns. Kinkle and Hill both have 5 touchdowns of their own. But the receiving game, unfortunately, nobody's really taken that huge step forward. But Duke is already at 743 yards and 11 touchdowns. We could keep trying to feed him and Sano the ball, see if we get the leading rusher and receiver if our offense continues to explode like this. But another thing for this week is our recruiting, as we're having better luck this year. Only landed one player, but a couple of verbal commits. As Jamerson, this quarterback, it's only us giving him an offer so far. He's currently verbally committed. Then 2 offensive linemen who have us at number one of them being a 4-star pass protector who does already have 87 pass block. He would be insane at the right tackle spot, but we've got 2 verbal commits from these defensive tackles. We're number 1 for this Mike linebacker, trying to get in for another athlete lurking linebacker who could fill in for our outside linebackers that we're losing. We also have number 1 for a corner here. Unfortunately, we lost our second gem corner as LSU went all in for him, and we lost him after week 5. But our first commit of this board was the 3-star free safety Westerman. Should be great for depth as we do need 6 safeties in the recruiting cycle this season. But now we're just going to go ahead, jump into this game to see if we can win against our first Power 4 opponent this season in Utah. We'll come out here for a field goal on 4th and 16 to try and find the first 3 points of this game. 2nd down and 5 inside the 10. Up the middle for the run game, finding the end zone, and Utah will find the first touchdown of the game and take a 7-3 lead. 1st and 10, and we're going with the run game up the middle. Sano's got a lot of running room. He's going out to the left side. He's going to beat the last safety. They're going to try and catch him. But on the first play of our drive, Sano will go for an 88-yard touchdown, and we'll take our lead right back. 2nd and 6. Dropping back to pass, going to step up and take off with Carnegie. He doesn't have the most speed in the world, but he does have enough to go all the way to the end zone, and we'll find our first double-digit lead of this ball game. 4th and 8. Looking to cap off our offensive first half with a field goal to put us up 20-7. A 4th and 3 for Utah to cut our lead down to 10. 1st and 10. Back to the ground game for Utah. What are these jukes? Is somehow he's going to go all the way to the end zone, and Utah has made this a 3-point game. 3rd and goals. We hit the final 4 minutes from our 2 Sano's into the end zone. We'll take our double-digit lead back, and this could close the door on the Utes. 1st and goal from the 2. It's back up the middle. Sano juking by defenders, finding the end zone once again. His 3rd rushing touchdown of the game, and this should officially end the Utahs. 2nd and 5 to the air, taking a deep shot over the top. How does he come down with that as Utah's back into the end zone, and it's a 10-point game again? On 1st and 10, we'll take a knee to cap off a solid 10-point win, 34-24. Another huge day for Sano, over 260 yards rushing, back into the end zone 3 separate times. Another huge game for us. We are still undefeated on this season with just conference games left to go. But with us playing our 2 games for the season, we've got no more games to play. We just have our conference championship and playoff games if we can make it there. So now we're going to sim to the end of the season to see what our next game will be. And as we head into our Mountain West Conference Championship game. We will be taking on 23rd ranked 11-1 New Mexico. But for us, the rest of our season wasn't perfect, as after that game against Utah, we would have a Week 9 bye before a 52-3 win at home versus UTEP, and then our closest win 10-7 at UNLV, and our first loss of the season 27-21 at home against North Dakota State. But in our most recent game, we would take down the team that we are now playing against in the Mountain West Conference Championship game, shutting out New Mexico 28-0. But we've got to take them on again in the conference championship game. So playing a team twice can always find ways to slip up. But with nothing else to go over, we're going to wait another week for stats, as they will count after this conference championship game, and we'll show recruiting once we get to early national signing day. So we're just going to jump in and see if we can get back-to-back Mountain West Conference championship games and wins against New Mexico. We'll jump into a rainy day in San Jose, California, as we're currently up 30-12, and a run up the middle gets stuffed, as we've held the number one running back for the Lobos to 8 yards on 9 rushes. Some efficiency you definitely don't want to see in your conference championship game, but they're taking a deep shot. That's broken up a great play there for our linebacker, and it brings up 3rd and 8. New Mexico is going to need a ton of help here. They need 3 scores in the last 2.5 minutes, as they're dropping back to pass once again, going over the middle. That's held just shy of that first down mark, and this could be the final play of the Lobos season, as they do have all 3 timeouts, so maybe if they can get a stop. But they would rather keep this drive alive, as they are dropping back to pass, maybe looking at that one-on-one over top, but instead he's just going to take a sack. What are you doing there, as he tries to escape, and instead of going one-on-one, he'll lose probably the game for New Mexico, take a loss at downs, and we've got a 1st and 10 just before the 2-minute warning. Already inside the 20, we're going up the middle and getting stuffed. A loss of 1, but Sano's already over 120 yards rushing, and we'll hit the 2-minute warning. Will New Mexico use any timeouts between now and the end of this ball game? As we're going back up to the right side with Sano, he's finding some space. He's getting over 129 yards now. Still needs about 70 yards on the ground to get over 2,000 yards on the season. But I don't think he can do that in the last minute and 16 seconds, as we're going to be stuck here with 4th and inches. But we're inside the final minute, and it looks like we'll take a field goal to solidify our win. From about the 16, it's right down the middle. We'll have a 33-12 game, and that should officially put an end to New Mexico's season, as hopefully this one is good enough to find us our first college football playoff appearance, as we are currently the highest ranked Group of 5 team, but we are 1 spot ahead against Washington State. So if they were to have a bigger Pac-12 conference win, maybe they would get the spot. But with 34 seconds left, dropping back to pass, going over the middle of the field, will it be broken up? No, it's hauled in. A 14-yard completion, and it's back on the ball for New Mexico. Still not using any timeouts, but going with hurry-up offense, as we're going to hit the final 20 seconds. Getting hit as he throws, and it's going to fly out of bounds. An incompletion brings up 2nd and 10 now. 64 yards to go to the end zone, but with 18 seconds left, is that their focus? Dropping back to pass, we're only sending 3. Over the middle of the field, just getting it out to the running back, but that's not a first down. All the guys downfield have to hurry back up to the offensive line, as with 5 seconds on a 3rd and 2, they've got to go deep. 3 seconds as the snap gets off. Running out of time. Going over the top. Does he have the arm strength into double coverage? It's deflected down. A 33-12 win to end this Mountain West Conference Championship game. And hopefully this is good enough to find the Spartans' first ever college football playoff appearance. Now, after beating New Mexico in back-to-back games, we were given the final college football playoff spot. For being the best Group of 5 team, we got the number 12 spot, and we'll be taking on 5th-ranked 12-1 Arizona State. But before we jump into that game, we're going to take a look at a few things. starting with early National Signing Days, we've already landed 9 high school prospects. Still going after a running back and a receiver, but we landed 8 3-stars and 1 4-star. Almost all these players have impact development, but unfortunately, this 3-star athlete lurking linebacker has normal, but a good thing, Selman will have star development. All these guys should be fantastic players if we continue to go throughout this rebuild with these guys on our roster. But the big thing for us is taking a look at our stats for the season. As in his first year as a starter, Carnegie will go for 3,347 yards and 35 touchdowns. Unfortunately, he had 10 picks, but in his first year as a starting quarterback, I would much rather have these passing yards and touchdowns without really worrying too much about the picks. But the big thing for this season is, did we get a receiver to lead the country in receiving yards? Unfortunately, even though we had our first 1,000-yard receiver with 15 touchdowns for Duke, I've already gone through. The guy who led the entire country had over 1,600 yards through the air. But the big thing that we were tracking throughout the season is Sano's rushing yards. And somehow, some way, he got over 1,900 rushing yards with 16 touchdowns on the ground. This easily led the country in receiving yards, as he was 300 to 400 yards over the guy who placed second. But with these kinds of stats comes awards. As for the first time in this rebuild, we were given out award for a best player in the entire country. And for Sano, he won the Doak Walker Award for the best running back in the entire country. Obviously, when you go for 1,900 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns, you have to win this award. But the guy who finished second is the man we're playing in the first round of the college football playoffs in Jason Brown. He's playing for Arizona State. He went for 1,300 yards on the ground and 18 scores. But this was not the only award that we won. As down for the best return man in the entire country, it was Eric Millard. He won the Jet Award, and there was multiple times where we would jump into the games and he would have insane returns, even putting a touchdown on the board. But it seems even when we would simulate the games, he was still the best return man in the entire country. And in only his freshman season, he could turn into one of the best returners of all time. But that's everything we have for this start. So we're just going to jump into this game to see if we can get an upset win against 5th-ranked Arizona State. We'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 for our offense after we just recovered an onside kick, as we are currently up 38-17, and Arizona State only just scored their second touchdown of the game. But after the 2-minute warning, they need some kind of turnover and some sort of crazy offensive explosion as we're going over the middle of the field on a slant. That's a 1st down inside the Arizona State 25. And Carnegie, in his very first college football playoff appearance, going for 175 and 3 touchdowns. A huge performance as we're inside the final minute 20. A swing out to Sano. Sano's finding a lot of running room here as he gets another 1st down. Basically putting away Arizona State in this game as they're basically giving up. A huge upset. Another Big 12 opponent that's looking to go down here at the hands of San Jose State as we beat Utah earlier in the season. But Sano's going up the middle, getting inside the 10, gets him over 100 yards rushing. But it seems like our offense continues to cook here. With 1 second left, we'll hit triple zeros and we'll win our very first college football playoff game in school history. 38-17 the final score, and we'll play against the number 1 seed in the second round. We'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 for our offense as we're currently down by 3 with 3 minutes left. Taking a deep shot for Carnegie. We're already inside the 15. Just started our drive, taking a deep shot, and Tennessee's defense slowly starting to crumble here in the final stages of this game. As it was a 10-3 game after the first half, 13-3 Tennessee late in the 4th quarter, but a touchdown from us and then a huge turnover from Tennessee gives us this field position as we're going up the middle for 2. Inside the final 2.5 minutes of this game in the 4th quarter. Back to Sano up the middle, finding a lot of running room. The man who led the country in rushing yards is getting another 87 in this game. But we've got 3rd and inches, bunching everybody towards the middle of the field is both the offense and the defense. Going back up the middle, Sano, can he find the first down? He will. As we've got 1st and goal from the 4 after this 2-minute warning. Both teams with all 3 timeouts could lead to some interesting things here late, as it looks like we're going to completely shift everybody around, flipping some receivers and Sano to the right side. Dropping back to pass is Carnegie. He's got a ton of time in the pocket, but he's running out of it. And we had 1st and goal from the 4, but we're going to lose it all on a sack back to the 16. Carnegie just took too much time to find something, and now we've got 2nd and goal. Over the middle of the field to try and get some of that back, but it's broken up, and it's 3rd and goal now. We could always take a field goal, but with 90 seconds left, we're looking for the end zone. Carnegie dropping back the pass, going over the middle of the field. Is it hauled in? Yes, it is. And we're into the end zone. It's a touchdown to find our 1st lead of the game. And Carnegie, the clutch factor here in the college football playoffs, so that's another touchdown for him. And we'll bring out the field goal unit to take a PAT, give us a 4-point lead, and put the pressure back on Tennessee. As we've been holding them to 2 field goals and a touchdown here through 3 quarters with a little bit of change. And they'll start with a return from just shy of the red zone, looking for some space, and he'll get shoved back just after the 16. And it's 84 yards between Tennessee and the end zone. Got to go all the way here. They cannot take a field goal. McIntyre dropping back, going over the middle. That could have been picked off if we got a better animation there. But they'll cross the 30, and there's a Tennessee timeout. As McIntyre only just got over 100 yards passing, only has that 1 touchdown to his name as they're dropping back. We're sending pressure. He's going out to the middle of the field, and it's going to be picked off by Justin Williams. Williams looking for some space. He's inside the 10, and we have 1st and goal on McIntyre's 1st pick of the game. Tennessee has completely crumbled late here. With only 70 seconds left, we have 1st and goal from the 7, Sano up the middle, and Tennessee is going to have to start taking some timeouts here. As there's their 2nd one of this game. From the 6 now. 2nd and goal, we can likely just run it up the middle. That's exactly who we're going to. And who else other than the man who led the country in rushing yards? It's Sano up the middle. And we officially just put Tennessee away after some huge blunders from both sides of the ball. Sano's now over 100 yards rushing, I believe. And with the PAT, we'll make it an 11-point game. What in the world just happened to Tennessee? We only just jumped in and have seen a ton of mistakes, but now we have to make sure that we don't make our own. With just over a minute left, they're going to get another return here, needing to stop him, and we will just before the 20 at the 17. 63 seconds left on the clock. Tennessee's got to find a way to go deep here. McIntyre dropping back. We're setting pressure. He's going over the middle once again. That's Williams to push him back. But the clock continues to tick here inside the final minute, and McIntyre is going to spike it. Now with 54 seconds left, Tennessee wants to keep that timeout. McIntyre dropping back once again. We're still sending pressure. They're going out to the sideline, but a great wrap-up tackle there to keep him to 4. But it's back to the ball for Tennessee. 3rd and 6 now from the 33. Bunching receivers, 2 on each side of the field. Dropping back to pass is McIntyre. He's got a ton of time here, going over the middle of the field, deep down towards the 50. They'll get to the 50. As they'll stand from the Fiesta Bowl logo. Looking to find a magical run here to keep their season moving. As we're only sending 3. McIntyre dropping back, going to the sideline, finding another open receiver as he gets over 150 yards passing now. But we're inside the final 30 seconds, and they're back to the line. He's looking to spike it with 25, but it's going down with 24. And it's 2nd and 10 from the San Jose 33. Another pass from McIntyre. We're sending pressure from the linebacker spot. He's got to watch out behind, but he's going to go to the sideline, and that pass is broken up. 3rd and 10 for the Vols. 2 more plays to get a first down here as McIntyre's dropping back. They're sending 4 verts now. McIntyre's going to step up. He's going to scramble out, going deep downfield. That could have been intercepted, but instead it's broken up. And this could be Tennessee's final play of their season. 4th and 10 from the 33. It's McIntyre going over the middle. That's a huge play for them, but there's only 8 seconds left. They have to use their final timeout. In these final 8 seconds, as it's 4, it's 3, it's 2, it's 1. Will they get the snap off? No, they won't. Tennessee lets the clock run down, and a huge comeback for San Jose State as we have won our first and second round matchups in our first college football playoff appearance. And now we will be taking on either the winner of Clemson or SMU. We'll jump into this rainy Orange Bowl with a 3rd and 9 for SMU. Dropping back to pass, going to the outside. A great catch there as he gets out of bounds. As he'll actually stay in bounds instead, it'll be 1st and 10 from the 46. But SMU currently down by 10 points with 3.5 minutes left. They're dropping back to pass once again. He's got pressure in his face as he goes towards the sideline. Did he come down with that ball? As it looks like he doesn't. It's going to be dropped there at the 46. But a game where we were kind of winning for most of it. We were up 16-3 at one point as they go to the outside, breaking a tackle, trying to get the first, but they won't. We were up 16-3. Then SMU took a 19 and then 20-13 lead, and now we are leading 30-20 with just 3 minutes left. 3rd and 1. It's another pass for SMU. Going over the middle of the field, it gets dismantled. He doesn't even hold on to it. It's 4th and 1, and SMU's season could rely on this one play here. 4th and 1. They're dropping back, going very quickly to the outside. A good catch there for them. Woods is now over 214 passing yards with 2 touchdowns. It's a 1st and 10 from our 37. Back to the air for SMU. Looking for somebody to make a play. He's got a corner route on the left side, trying to spin out of a tackle, but they're inside the 15. 1st and 10 now at the 14. Turning around, handing it off up the middle. He's got a ton of running room. He's inside the 5. Rowden's biggest rush of the game gets him down at the 3. Trying to get in the end zone as soon as possible. They're dropping back to pass. Looking for something. Stepping up. Finding the back of the end zone, but it's going to be overthrown towards the stands. And it's 2nd and goal here under 2.5 minutes. Going with play action instead. It's going to be an RPO to the end zone, and SMU gets things back within 1 score with just under 2.5 minutes left in this game. Receiver Brown makes the catch, and it's the PAT to make it a 3-point game. And it's right down the middle. Will they go for an onside? They still have all 3 timeouts. I'd be surprised, and it looks like they're going to send it deep. We're going to get a return here from about our own 10. For the best returner in the entire country. But we'll have a 1st and 10 from our own 23. Still got that 2-minute warning and SMU's 3 timeouts to go through as it's Sano up the middle, hurdling a man's foot, getting a 1st down, and there's the first SMU timeout. Now with 2 minutes and 15 seconds from the 35, it's back to Sano, spinning out of a tackle, breaking another and getting another 1st down as it forces a 2nd SMU timeout. Another fresh set of downs here, this time just shy of the Orange Bowl logo. It's a keeper on the ground, and Carnegie gets slammed. There's another SMU timeout. They've got no more in this 4th quarter. They've just got the 2-minute warning to rely on. But after that 4-yard loss, it's 2nd and 14. Back to the air goes Carnegie for the first time. Over the middle, that's Sano breaking another tackle. The running back taking over in this game. Carnegie is now over 300 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. He does have an interception to his stat sheet. But now on 3rd down, back to the ground game, Sano gets slammed, but he does get pushed forward, and we've got 4th and inches. I'm surprised we're not even going to think about it, as we're going to let the time run down and punt it deep. try and pin them inside their own 5. It's going to bounce at the 10 and go into the end zone and back to the 20 for SMU. They just need a field goal on this drive, but with a minute 15 left, they're going to need to go down the field quick. Starting with a pass, going to the air, taking a deep shot over the middle of the field. And who else other than Williams, the man who ended Tennessee's game last week, will now end SMU's season this week. We'll start from the 26 after the pick, but it doesn't matter because we'll just take a knee. And the San Jose State Spartans will take their first trip to the national championship game in this rebuild. Off the backs of Sano's near 100-yard rushing game and 300 passing yards for Carnegie, the Spartans will take on either Minnesota or Texas A&M for the title. We'll jump into this national championship with a 1st and 10 from our own 25. Carnegie stepping up, going to the sideline, finding an open receiver across the 45. As we're currently down by just 8 points, needing somebody to find the end zone and the 2-point conversion. As now on 1st and 10 from just shy of midfield, Carnegie making some adjustments, going out to the running back Sano, who's got a burst of speed. He'll cross the opposite 46. And it's 2nd and 3 as we're approaching the final 3 minutes of this national championship. Play action. Carnegie scrambling out of the pocket, taking a deep shot. It's double coverage, but it's broken up. Carnegie could have just taken off and gone, even though he's only got like 74 speed. He wanted the deep shot to get us inside the 20, but on 3rd down, it's back up the middle. Sano finding a 1st down, finding a lane, and getting down to the 38. As now it's 1st and 10 from the 38. Carnegie back to the air, and he just threw it to the other team. The thing that haunted our opponents in the past 2 games will now come back to bite us as we are throwing an interception, and it's going to be returned for a pick 6. I thought Carnegie was going to throw it inside to the receiver who was wide open, but instead he threw it to the receiver on the outside, and it ended up in the hands of the corner for Texas A&M, a one-handed snag. And now we're down by 2 scores, and our national championship hopes could come to an end in the big game. As the PAT is good, it's now a 15-point lead for A&M, and we're going to need some magic. Finding what we've had all season long, we're going to need it to come back. As now it's a 1st and 10, back where we started the previous drive. From our own 25, Carnegie stepping up, going deep over the top of the first play. Does he have the arm strength? He's got a man out there, and we're already inside the 16. Everybody's hurrying back up to the line, trying to get a snap off before the 2-minute warning, and that's the benefit of having a man with 94 throw power. There's 3 receivers unguarded up the top. If Carnegie he didn't throw it. We had 3 receivers at the top of the screen who were unguarded, and if he just got the snap off before the 2-minute warning, it was a free touchdown. But instead, we're dropping back. Carnegie's got pressure in his face, and he gets slammed. Everything is going wrong for us here in the final moments. As now it's 2nd and 17. Carnegie needing the end zone here as he's dropping back. A&M sending 4, going over the middle of the field, and it's broken up. Got to be worried about the time here. Got to find the end zone. It's to the air for Carnegie. Stepping up. Is he going to take off and go? Yes, he will on 3rd down, but why not try and find somebody as he's got negative 32 rushing yards from just sacks. That gets him back a little bit, but under 90 seconds here. 5 wide, and we're dropping back to pass. Carnegie stepping up, going to the back of the end zone, and it was broken up. And that will likely end our hopes of trying to win a national championship here in Season 4, as it's a handoff to the running back. He gets flattened at the 20. It's JT Lindsay, and there's a timeout for A&M. We're going to have a difficult transition year next year with losing a ton of superstars on this roster, mainly on the offensive side, as I would be surprised if Sano didn't go off to the NFL. Do have some other solid receivers as well, even some really good defensive players. So we're going to need another huge transfer portal if we're unable to make a miracle of a comeback here. Over the middle on third down, they're short. We'll use our final timeout as we're trying to stay in this game. And it's likely going to be A&M to punt it off. On 4th and 4, we're going to send it deep. And it's a return for the man who won the Jet Award. Back off to the right side for the best return man. And he doesn't even cross the 40. He gets down to the 36. And we're going to need another huge throw for Carnegie. Whatever he found on the previous drive, we need it again. Dropping back. It's going to be a screen play on the first one. And Sano doesn't even get close. We've got to hurry back up to the line. 2nd and 6 inside 50 seconds. And Carnegie gets slammed as the ball flops up, hits the defensive line in the back. But it's 3rd and 6 now. Carnegie, he's got 2 receivers at the bottom of the screen, 2 at the top of the screen. Dropping back to pass. Looking for something, getting slammed again as he throws it out of bounds. And now it's a 4th down for our season. With only 38 seconds left, we've got 4 receivers bunched at the top of the screen. Carnegie dropping back, going underneath. It's a first down to midfield, but we've got to get back on the ball. As the clock will run once we get back, and it looks like we're going to spike it with 30 and with 29. From midfield, we have to find the end zone. Carnegie dropping back there, sending pressure from the linebacker spot. Carnegie stepping up. It's a flop all the way out to the sideline. Another incompletion, and it's 3rd and 10. 2 more plays for our season. Dropping back to pass. They're sending pressure. They're in our face. And it's the 6th A&M sack of the game. Our offensive line crumbling here in the national championship. And on 4th and 18, we've got to go for it all. Carnegie taking a deep shot over the top, and there's another interception. Our season will come to an end here in the national championship game as A&M will take a knee with 4 seconds, and they'll get a 15-point win. 31-16, our magical college football playoff run comes to an end. As I thought this team could have got it done with the best running back in the country, one of the better receiving rooms that we've ever had, a quarterback who should be returning for his junior season. But it's an unfortunate way to end it. We've still got more seasons to go, so we're just going to go ahead and sim to the off season. Now, as we head into the first week of the off season, we've got to take a look at the people who are going to be leaving this program. And to nobody's surprise, Sano is going to be likely the first running back off the boards. He went for nearly 2,300 yards and 21 scores on the ground. But we're also going to lose our wide receiver 1 in Carson Clark. But the man who was backing him up still led the team in receiving yards in Duke with 1,365 and 17 scores. He will return, even though he's likely to go in the first round next season. But unfortunately, we lost our 2 starting guards, a corner, and a backup quarterback, but we did convince a linebacker to stay. A lot of replacing to do, but for the guys who are graduating, Barton, one of our receivers, another one going to get drafted, this time in the 4th round. We also are going to be losing the man who ended Tennessee's and SMU's season with an interception, and Ricky Williams going in the 1st round. But we also have 2 more players getting drafted. The transfer from Oklahoma last season, Derek Johnson's going to go in the 4th, and Silva, our starting center, is going to go in the 5th. All of these guys are low 80 overalls. Even the guys who aren't projected to get drafted might get drafted as our pro potential continues to go higher and higher up. But now we're just going to sim 1 more week to start our transfer portal process and really rebuild this team into another national title contender. Now, as we head into the first week of our transfer portal, I've already gone on and set up the board, but first we're going to take a look at who we had drafted, as we had more players drafted than what were projected, but the guys who were projected to go in the first went in the first. Sano, Clark, and Williams all projected to go in the first. That's exactly what happened. But two guys who were projected to go in the fourth, and Barton and Johnson, got moved up to the third. And even for Silva, he was projected to go in the fifth and got moved up to the fourth. But two guys who were projected to go undrafted, two will linebackers and two Atelli and Lashy, they went in the fifth and seventh. But now, for the whole reason we're in this week, it's the transfer portal. As we've already landed a ton of high school prospects, still one more to commit at eventually, likely at the end of the transfer portal process, it's 10 guys. But now for the transfer portal, we've got a quarterback, two running backs, two receivers, five offensive linemen, an edge rusher, a defensive tackle, four linebackers, four cornerbacks, and five safeties. With the extra hours that we have after our school prestige went up once again, we can give out nearly 25 hours to everybody, 10 hours to some people, but we're giving out 50 hours to two players. The first one being Craig Cheeks, the four-star receiver. It's a four-star. You've got to give out as much hours as you're competing with schools like LSU, Alabama, and Clemson. Hopefully, if he doesn't take that number one spot in our receiver room, he should take the number two, but that's only if he commits. He should be another high 80 overall receiver. But the one that I want the most is Amari Latimer. He was number two in the entire country in rushing yards behind Sano. He had over 1,400 yards on the ground, and I feel like it only makes sense if we take the guy who led the country in rushing yards and replace it with the guy who was second. Maybe we can push him up to first this year, so I just want to try and land him. He's getting the other 50 hours. But the only way to land these guys is by simming all 4 weeks of the transfer portal to see if we can land all 25 transfer portal players. Now, as we head into National Signing Day here in 2029, unfortunately, we didn't land everybody on the board, but we got 31 of 35 total players, with the first 9 coming from high school, 8 of them being 3 stars, one of them being that 4-star that we landed. But now for the transfer portal, we've got 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 5 offensive linemen, an edge rusher, 3 linebackers, 4 corners, and 5 safeties. Unfortunately, we had to start going after some 2-stars as all the 3-stars were locking us out. But unfortunately for the guys I lost, I was trying to go after a 4-star quarterback who was one of the top passers in the entire country last year for LSU, but he's going off to Minnesota, and unfortunately he has elite development. Lost him last second, but we also lost a running back, a defensive tackle, and a linebacker. But once again, we're back inside the top 50, the number one class in the Mountain West, spending 765 NIL. I'm looking to spend a ton next season if we're given it. But now we're going to go ahead, upgrade this team once again, head into the 2030 season, and start off season 5. Now, as we head into season 5, we have reached the 2030s, and this San Jose State team is once again back inside the top 25, this time taking the number 11 spot, coming off a national championship loss. And somehow, some way, this team has been downgraded in overall. I completely disagree with this. We're down to an 87, coming off a year where we are a 91. And this game is saying that our offense is worse than our defense, but our top 8 of 10 players are all on the offensive side of the ball. 6 of 8 of them are receivers, as Duke, Gastineau, Millard, Veal, Blanco, and Cantu, all above an 86 overall, all with a ton of speed. We've got 3 90 overall receivers with 92, 85, and 93 speed. One of these guys can surely lead the country in all of college football. We should easily have the most explosive offense once again. But with a great receiving group, you've got to have a good running back, as Amari Latimer will be taking over for Sano. Like I said in the transfer portal, he was second in the country behind Sano. So I wanted to bring him in to see if he can take over that number 1 spot this year now that Sano's in the NFL. But they've got to have great guys blocking for them, as Paluki, Uni, and Nicholson will all take the number one spots at their position. But with a great offense, you have to have a great defense, and Bing will be our number one defensive player at the free safety spot. He's an 86 overall, but he's met as well with the linebacking group of Roberts and Ring, 83 and 85 overall. But even on the other safety spot, Sims is up to an 83 overall. And for the rest of this roster, some low 80 overalls are going to find themselves in the starting spots. And these high 70 overalls might be sitting the bench once again. But we've got a solid group of guys, a much deeper roster than what we've had in years past. Hopefully that can get us over the title and get us that national championship. But once again, we're running it back with Carnegie at quarterback. But there is one thing this season. He does have some competition at the backup. If Carnegie struggles at all during this season, going to give it off to the sophomore as he has more room to improve than Carnegie. With the backup here, he can have maxed out accuracy and the same amount of throw power as Carnegie, while also having better quickness, IQ, and elusiveness. So if he slips up at all, we are going to the backup to see if he can get things done this year. But with this kind of roster, we've got to have a pretty tough schedule, as once again, we'll be taking on a Power 4 opponent. This time it's in Week 1, traveling to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA. We are going to jump in and play this game before a home game against Oregon State at Rice. Home for Delaware before our first bye week of the season. Then in conference play, we have at NIU, at North Dakota State, home for UNLV, and at Hawaii. This will be our second game that we jump into and play, doing what we did last year, where we'll play a Week 1 game and a midway game before our second bye week, then at Wyoming, home for Air Force, home for UTEP, and home for Nevada. We'll sim to this point, and after that Hawaii game, it will either be the conference championship, the college football playoffs, a bowl game, or our season's over. Doing what we did last year, not making any changes, but the final thing is our staff. But for back-to-back years, we haven't changed anything. Still getting that off-season progression boost, getting that NIL every single season that we keep on needing as this roster continues to get better and better. But now we're going to go ahead, scout our players, set up our board, and then head into Week 1 where we'll travel to UCLA. Third and goal from the 2. We need Latimer to try and find the end zone here. We'll have a beautiful lane, and he's into the end zone for our first 7 points of the season and his first 7 points as a San Jose State Spartan. 2nd and 8. It's back to the air for UCLA. Going to the outside, targeting our best linebacker, Roberts, who will find the first turnover of this game, and we're already inside the UCLA 15. 3rd and 10, and we're going to the air. UCLA sending some pressure. We're going to the back of the end zone, and it's Avery Duke into the end zone, and we'll take our second touchdown and a 14-point lead. On 4th and 8, UCLA will find their first 3 points of this ball game. 1st and 10, we're sending pressure, getting it out, and nobody can cover. Our defense had a pitiful drive there, and UCLA's into the end zone before the end of the first half. We'll come out here on 4th and 2 to take a 42-yarder and get our 7-point lead back. On the kickoff, we'll get a return for UCLA. Getting slammed. Fumbling the football. 2nd and goal from the 3. These are the moments where this bruiser back in Latimer needs his time. He's inside the 3. He's to the end zone, and this momentum's really flipped on its head as we'll take another 2-score lead. 1st and 10, UCLA going with an RPO. Trying to cut it back to the inside. He's going to fumble again, and we're going to pick up our second fumble of this second half. On 4th and goal, another UCLA fumble turns into 3 points. 1st and 10 from the 30. Going with play action, dropping all the way back, trying to roll out to the left side. He's going to throw it up, and it's going to be picked off by Barnes, and it's the third UCLA turnover. First and 10 from the 22. For UCLA, they're dropping back to pass once again. Why is everybody so open? They're back into the end zone, and this game's getting a little bit interesting as we're back within 10 points. We'll come out for a 4th and 5 and leave this game with a field goal to shut the door on the Bruins. 3rd and 26 after the UCLA kick show. They're dropping back to pass once again, looking for something. He's in his own end zone. He's going to throw it out towards his open receiver on the right side. They're going to get all those and fumble yardage back. But the clock's going to hit triple zeros. The game is over. We'll take a 30-17 lead as we'll likely get inside the top 10 after this week. A huge win to start our season against a Big Ten opponent. But now we've got to sim to the midpoint of the season where we'll take on Hawaii. Now, as we head into our rivalry week against Hawaii, we've moved up just 2 spots to the number 9 team in the entire country, but we still have a perfect 7-0 record. As after that game against UCLA, have a couple more out-of-conference games, starting off 49-0 at home for Oregon State, then 35-14 at Rice, and 56-13 against Delaware. Before our first bye week, and then the start of conference play, 49-7 at Northern Illinois, 42-7 at North Dakota State, and then home for UNLV, 28-14. So now heading into this game against Hawaii, this is our final game before our second bye week, and then the last 4 conference matchups. But so far in this season, we've probably had our best luck in high school recruiting, as we've already landed a ton of prospects after those 2 instant commits, and we're currently in the top 3 for this 4-star quarterback. We have landed a 3-star running back, also number 1 for this other 3-star gem running back, and we're top 2, the only one giving him an offer for this other athlete running back. We have a verbal commit from one of our 4-star receivers. We just got back into this recruiting battle as unfortunately our playing style was nuked after our first game against UCLA. Hopefully Indiana slows down and we can get back in for Bettis, but we have landed this 3-star lineman, a verbal commit from another, these 2 commits, 3 guard commits. Also have a verbal commit from the center. We have flipped this 4-star defensive tackle. Originally he had verbally committed to Nebraska, but we gave him just a little bit more NIL money and he flipped, and now we've got a 4-star gem defensive tackle. We're also trying to target this 3-star gem linebacker, but unfortunately I jumped in a little too late, and Arkansas is really running away with it. So it's going to take a miracle to get him back, and I'm targeting some 2-star tight ends now. Unfortunately, there's no 3-star tight end still available, so we'll have to find the 2-star gems. But that's all we've got for this midway point, so we're just going to jump into this game to see if we can get our first win against Hawaii in a game that we can jump into and play. 1st and 10 from the 15. It's an RPO. He's going to fumble the football, and it's going to be picked up by Trinidad, the defensive tackle with a lot of speed. He can return this all the way, trying to beat out the offensive lineman. He runs out of stamina. He's limping to the end zone inside the 5, and we're going to go all the way, and it's a big man touchdown to get us on the board first. 1st and 10. Hawaii's going to need something better after that fumble on the last drive. They're dropping back to pass, taking a shot over the middle of the field. And what are you doing? It's back-to-back turnovers for Hawaii, and we can return this inside the 15. 3rd and 8. Back to the air we go. Dropping back, waiting for somebody to get up. We're going to lob it up there to Duke, and Duke's going to find the end zone, and we'll take our first 2 touchdowns of the game and make it a 14-0 lead. On 4th and 3, a Hawaii drive finally doesn't end in a turnover, and they'll find their first 3 points. 3rd and goal after the sack. Going to the air, taking a shot to the back of the end zone. We should have a wide open tight end, and it's Ham to find our 3rd touchdown of the first half. First and 10 from the 46. To the air goes Hawaii. They're sending everybody deep. They're going Varts. They're going over the top one-on-one for Tolazin. Tolazin's getting burnt. And Hawaii's going to find a first play touchdown on this drive. Fourth and 8. Hawaii will get this back within 7 points. First and 10. Starting with a screen play to the outside, trying to get our receivers in space. It's Duke. Duke's got a lot of speed. And on the first play of our drive after Hawaii field goal, we'll go 75 yards to the house. First and 10 as we're inside 30 seconds. To the air we go. Over the middle of the field, it's Gastineau inside the 5, and we'll find the end zone before the end of the first half. A very efficient drive for us, and we're back on the scoreboard again. Playing dangerous here on our first drive of the second half, but currently up by 21 points. We're going for it on 4th and 6. Going on a slant over the middle. We're hit as we throw. It's Gastineau into the end zone, and we'll find the first 40 points of this ball game. A first and 10 as Hawaii starting to find something on this offensive drive. Inside the 15, it looks like they're going with play action. Dropping all the way back. Going to take up, step up and run. He's inside the 5 into the end zone with a dive. And Hawaii makes our lead a little bit less, but it's not much for them in this game. Second and 15 after the incompletion. Still trying to get us to jump off sides. He's going to fumble the football. One too many hit sticks, and it's another Hawaii turnover. First and goal from about the half-yard line. Needing a bruising back to go up the middle. We've got just that with Latimer. He's going to find the end zone, and we're just shy of 50 points. Second and 2 as this is likely the final play of this game. Hawaii's going to go up the middle. They'll get a solid block into the end zone. And about 1 second left on this clock as this game is all but wrapped up and over. On the kickoff with about 1 second left, this could be our final return of the game. We're going to go out the end zone, and the final second will wear off the clock, and we'll end at about the 25-yard line. But a very solid win for us, 48-27, beating out Hawaii once again in this rebuild. We won every single game against the Rainbow Warriors in this rebuild. The first one that we actually got to jump into and play. Carnegie with his best game that we got to play. 312 and 5 touchdowns. But you can't forget the guy who's currently leading the country in rushing yards, as now we've got to head to what could be our final Mountain West Conference Championship game. Now, as we head into the conference championship game, we are taking on what is likely our easiest opponent so far in 6-6, unranked New Mexico, as they only went 5-3 in conference play and are facing the Mountain West juggernaut in our San Jose State Spartans, who are still undefeated, 12-0 and 8-0 in conference play, now up to the number 8 team in the entire country. As after that game against Hawaii, we only really had one close game, as it started 34-0 shutout of Wyoming before a 42-14 game against Air Force, our closest game 21-17 against UTEP, and then another 42-14 game at home against Nevada. A lot of similar results here, but now with nothing else to really go over, we're just going to jump straight into this game to see if we can take down New Mexico and win another Mountain West Conference Championship. We'll jump into this game with a start of the New Mexico drive with just under 2.5 minutes. They're dropping back the pass, looking for somebody going towards the sideline, and a spinning, jumping interception for Moses. He'll find an interception, and that should likely shut the door on the Lobos. As it was a pretty close game in the halftime, 14-7 at the end of the first half, but we've really run away with it with a couple of touchdowns and a field goal in the most recent drive. But now we're going to go with a handoff up the middle. Will New Mexico use any timeouts? As it looks like they won't. We'll hit the 2-minute warning in what is likely the final 2 minutes of New Mexico's season. Who knows if they'll get invited to a bowl game, but we're going empty backfield. Going to let the quarterback step up. He's going to take off and go. He's got a first down across the 30. That's Carnegie with his best rush of the game. And now as we're inside a minute 30, will we try and let Latimer get over 100 yards rushing? One of the best rushers in the entire country will get stuffed at the line. Still trying to find that 100th yard on the ground. On 2nd and 10 with about 40 seconds left, we're going back to the air. It's a takeoff with Carnegie, but he's going to get slammed to the ground, a loss of 4. But it looks like the rest of the time is going to run off this clock. We're inside 10 seconds, down to 3, 2, and 1. That will end this Mountain West Conference Championship game. 31-7 the final score. This should guarantee our spot in the college football playoffs, as we're still the number 8 team in the entire country. We might slide based on other conference championship games, but there is a pretty high chance that the San Jose State Spartans will have their first home college football playoff game. Now, as we head into our first round of the college football playoffs, unfortunately, the thing I was worrying about in the Mountain West Conference Championship game ended up happening. As even though we won a perfect 13-0, we got kicked out of our number 8 spot and we'll be traveling on the road to go play 8th ranked Oklahoma. But before we jump in the game, we've got a few things to go over. As for the first time, we're in the double digits of signed recruits at early National Signing Day, and we even have some 4-stars. With 12 total players, we've got a quarterback, 3 running backs, a receiver, 6 offensive linemen, and a defensive tackle. The guys I'm excited for, this 4-star defensive tackle has star development, as well as this 3-star athlete running back. But I'm also excited for the 4-star gem receivers. He's got 94 speed with 94 acceleration. Including that impact development makes it just a little bit better. But we've also got this 4-star quarterback who's got 91 throw power and 86 speed. He would be the fastest quarterback in our system, as well as having some of the most throw power, just 1 or 2 ticks behind Carnegie. Just a very solid group of players that we're bringing in, easily our best class up to date. But now for the season stats, as once again, Carnegie taking that step up. Now in his junior season, he's up to 3,500 yards with 37 touchdowns and bringing the interceptions down to 7. With some of those absolutely being my fault. So those interceptions could be cut in half if it wasn't for the games that I played. But for the rushing title, once again, Amari Latimer coming in, taking over for Sano, who led the country in rushing yards, will now take his spot up to 1,760 yards. Once again, the number 1 player in the entire country in the rushing category. But this year, he's taking a step up with 20 touchdowns on the ground, vulturing every single carry in the red zone, as Goldwire only had 3 touchdowns and Thomas only had 1 touchdown. Latimer took every single red zone carry, but for the first time in our receiving game, we had 2,000-yard receivers. Duke was one last year, but this year, Gastineau getting just 6 yards over that 1,000-yard mark, as him and Duke were nearly the same exact receiver. Just 6 receptions separating them, just 4 receiving yards, and they both had the same amount of touchdowns with 11. But we've got guys like Millard with 500 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, Veal with 404 touchdowns, and Ham, our tight end, also with 404 touchdowns. So our offense was explosive once again, spreading the ball out even more than what we had in years previous. But now for the defensive side of things, Ha, in his junior year, led the team in both TFLs and sacks. And then for the guys picking off the quarterback, Barnes and Moses, our number 1 and 2 corners, had 3 interceptions and led the team. So another very solid performance from the powerhouse in the Mountain West. So maybe things change next year if we reach that point. But now we're going to jump into this game and play against 8th ranked Oklahoma. We'll jump into this game with an Oklahoma 1st and 10. As they're going to drop back to pass here, it's going to be a screen dump off. Can anybody get to him before the first down? No, he won't. As he'll get it. As it seems like the Oklahoma quarterback has thrown 4 picks in this game. Somehow we're only winning by 3 points, just a 27-24 lead. He's going over the middle, and that's a diving catch for a first down. Gets him over 200 yards passing, but we're closing in on this 2-minute warning. As Oklahoma's going to get a play action here before the end of the 2-minute warning, going over the middle of the field, and they're already in field goal range. A lot going on here as we'll hit the 2-minute warning, and back to the line goes Oklahoma. As we took the lead on the most recent drive, but they're trying to tie it up at the least. Going to the outside. Do they have an open receiver? No, he's going to drop it on the pass breakup. And now we've got 2nd and 10. Still inside our 25. They're dropping back to pass once again. Watch out as he gets hit as he throws. And it's going to fly out of bounds and bring up 3rd and 10. All 3 timeouts in the hands of both teams. As they're going to motion a receiver all the way out to the right side. They're dropping back to pass. Got to look out for the pressure in his face. He's going to just dump it out. Will not find the first down. Will any timeouts be used? As it looks like both teams will keep them in their pockets. The clock continues to tick here. A little surprised that we're not using any timeouts. It gives all the way down to 1 minute and 4 seconds. But the field goal is perfect, and we've got a tie game at 27. That was a dangerous looking drive from Oklahoma. Got shoved down there by our defense. And now with 3 timeouts in just over a minute, we're going to start with a return from the end zone. That gets back to the 21. And Carnegie is going to have to go just over 79 yards. It might not be that far as we could take a field goal, but he's dropping back to pass. Going to go to the outside. Does he have an open receiver? No, it's batted down. Second and 10. Going to the handoff, the rush up the middle for Latimer, who gets stuffed. He was in the SEC last year, likely faced Oklahoma as he did transfer in from Missouri. He's been held to just over 100 yards now, but we're going to drop back to pass on 3rd and 7. Carnegie's going to try and scramble out. He's got a wide open receiver. A beautiful play for Carnegie. Gets us a first down across the 40. A huge play for us, as now we need about 20 more yards to get within field goal range. Carnegie's hit it as he throws, and it's going to fly out of bounds. Our offensive line's going to need to give Carnegie a little bit more time here, as it looks like they're only sending 4, and that's what they're doing. Dropping back to pass. Taking a deep shot. We've got one-on-one over the top of the screen. It's broken up. But we're inside 30 seconds now. 3rd and 10. Does Carnegie have another moment? He's going to drop back to pass. Oklahoma sends 4. He goes over the middle of the field. It's another first down. And it's another timeout out of our pocket as Carnegie just recently crossed that 150-yard mark. Going to need a couple of more here to get us within field goal range as it's play action. Dropping back. He's got to watch out for the pressure in his face, but he doesn't want a field goal. He wants it all, and it's going to be incomplete, thrown way over. I feel like we could just go with the rushing yard leader up the middle, but we don't want to do that. We're going to the air, going out to the tight end. That was a dangerous ball, but it is going to go for a completion. It's 3rd and 7. What will we go here? We're going to go 5 wide. Dropping back to pass. Carnegie gets hit. He's going to take a sack, and that could have just knocked us out of field goal range, and it looks like we're going to overtime, as nobody wants to get back to the line, and that's exactly what we'll get. We'll have overtime in the first round of the college football playoffs. We'll start overtime with a 1st and 10 for the Sooners. They're dropping back to pass, going over the middle of the field. They might have a touchdown on the first play as they're inside the 1. And back to the line for a 1st and goal for the Sooners. It's a handoff up the middle and straight through into the end zone, and Oklahoma will take a first overtime lead. Now it's 1st and 10 for our Spartans. Dropping back to passes Carnegie. He's got to watch out. He's got pressure in his face. And the way the 4th quarter ends is how overtime will start. It's a sack, and this time we're back to the 33. Gonna need somebody to make a play. Carnegie dropping back to pass. One-on-one over the top. Does he have a receiver in the end zone? Yes, he does, and we'll match Oklahoma's touchdown on the second play with a second play touchdown of our own. In the second overtime, we'll start with the balls. We're going up the middle with Latimer. He'll find 4, just a yard shy of 100. Second and 6 now from the 21. It's back to Latimer. He's got a lot of running room this time, and he's inside the 15. He crosses the 100-yard mark, but now inside the 15. It's another turnaround, a handoff up the middle, a full steam ahead as he's inside the 5. Latimer with 3 huge runs on this overtime drive. Now inside the 5, will he get the ball again? Instead, it's a dump off on an RPO out to the tight end Ham, and he's got first and goal from the 1. The spot where Latimer's been the best all year long. With 20 touchdowns on the ground, are we going back to him? That's exactly what we'll do. Latimer gets flattened at the 2. Gonna need somebody to step up here on second and goal. Carnegie gonna motion a tight end off to the left side here, likely bringing another blockers. He's gonna draw back the pass over the middle of the field in the back of the end zone, and there's another touchdown, and we'll cross 40 points here in overtime. And in the second overtime, we're going for 2. From the 3 to make it a 42-34 game. Over the middle on a slant, and it's caught, and we've got an 8-point lead. Now it's Oklahoma's turn to match our touchdown as they're dropping back to pass. Scrambling out here on the first play. He's going over the middle of the field. Does he have an open receiver? No. It's broken up, a huge pass breakup. Keeps Oklahoma at the 25. Now on second and 10. 2 receivers on each side of the field as they're dropping back to pass. Going to step up here. He's got time over the middle of the field. I thought our linebacker could have jumped up and picked that off, but instead it's going to be broken up. And now it's third and 10 for the Sooners. Back to the air they go. He's already thrown 4 picks on the day, but this time he's going to find an open receiver over the middle. That's a first down. Just need one mistake from the Oklahoma quarterback once again as he's dropping back, running out of time, scrambling out to the right side. Does he have enough speed? Going to the back of the end zone, and it's broken up once again. That's already a decent chunk of pass breakups. Just need a turnover now. It's another pass for Oklahoma. Going over the middle of the field, just taking a few chunky yards as it will get them inside the 10, down at about the 7. And now it's third and 4. Oklahoma dropping back. We're sending pressure. We're in his face. It's broken up again, and it's fourth and 4. Oklahoma needs to get to the 3 at the minimum. Otherwise, their season is over here in the first round. It's another pass. We're sending 4. Going to the back of the end zone. It's hauled in. It's a touchdown. And Oklahoma needs to go for 2 to tie it up. From the 3 once again. Here we go as they're going to the air. A slant over the middle, exactly what we did, but we're going to stuff them at the line. Denying Oklahoma of the 2-point conversion, and we'll get an insane 42-40 win against the Sooners on their home turf. Completely demolishing the fans as they cannot believe anything. A huge game from Barnes, 3 deflections, a pass deflection, 3 defensive picks. A huge game for us as now we head into our second round matchup with all the momentum you could possibly have. We'll jump into this game with a first and 10 for Clemson. Going with a swing to the outside, getting slammed, and he's going to lose 2 yards on the play. As we'll hit the 2-minute warning in this game, in a game where we're currently leading 30-24. A Clemson touchdown and a PAT could give them the lead, but a stop from us will do just that. Another 3 yards on a loss. As the Heisman Trophy winner Tommy Carr with 225 and 3 touchdowns right now. No picks to his name, but we would love to find his first. As he's going on a swing pass to the outside, and it's 3 straight negative plays. 4th and 18, and Clemson's season is on the line here on this play. Got to get to the 12. As they're going underneath, nowhere near the line to gain. We'll force a turnover on downs, and with under a minute left, we just need a first down to seal this game. from our own 17. Starting with a pass to the outside. Do we get to the 20? Yes, we will. There's Clemson's first. Looking for any sort of hope in this game. As now, after 3 yards on first down, we have a 2nd and 7 from our own 20. Needing to get to the 27 to end this game is up the middle with Latimer. He's over 100 yards once again, but there's the second Clemson timeout, and we are nowhere near that first down mark. Still 5 yards to go. Does Carnegie have it in his system to send us to the third round? He's dropping back over the middle of the field on an in route, and we're across the 35. Clemson's final timeout will show up, but it doesn't matter. We'll come out to take a knee, take down the number 1 team in the entire country in the Clemson Tigers, take down the Heisman winner with it, and we'll send ourselves to the third round as another huge game from both Carnegie and Latimer on the ground, through the air. Of course, when you take down the number 1 team, all the momentum that we have from the Oklahoma overtime game, and now this game, we should easily be flying through these college football playoffs, as now we'll go ahead and jump straight into our third round matchup. We'll jump into this game with a 1st and 10 for Arizona State's offense. Down by 14, they're going to need some sort of magic in this final 3 minutes, as their quarterback's now over 260 yards passing, but they still haven't found the end zone in this game. Currently, we're up 17-3 as they're dropping back to pass once again. Taking a shot over the middle of the field. He's going to hit a lineman in the back of the helmet, and it's going to fall incomplete. We'll have 2nd and 7. Just shy of midfield, just shy of that Cotton Bowl logo. Dropping back once again. He's got pressure behind him. It's going to be broken up over the middle of the field. A great play there. But now it's 3rd and 10 for Arizona State's season. They've got to start finding ways to drive down the field. They're dropping back. We're sending 4. Send a blitz from the linebacker spot. It's another breakup over the middle of the field as our defense is completely suffocating this Arizona offense in this game. And now it's 4th and 10. They have to get to the opposite 43 to keep their season alive. Making some adjustments. Dropping back to pass. We're sending pressure. Hitting him as he throws it. It's in double coverage. It's broken up. And with just over 2.5 minutes left in this Cotton Bowl, Arizona State's got all 3 timeouts, and we're just going to run straight through their throats as it's right up the middle with Latimer. He's inside the 35. There's a Sun Devil timeout, and their magical 12th seeded season could come to an end at the hands of the undefeated Spartans. As now 1st and 10, right up the middle again with Latimer. This time he's getting stuffed. But there's another Arizona State timeout. And now on 2nd and 10. From the 32, we're well within field goal range. We're going right back up the middle. Latimer says, "Get out of my way," with a stiff arm. And there's the final Sun Devil timeout. We have now crossed the Sun Devil 30. Just before the 2-minute warning, the last stoppage time for Arizona State, rather, as we're going to the outside, and we just miffed the catch. Just dropped it out there on the top of the screen, and we'll bring out the field goal unit to really shut out Arizona State, make it a 3-score game, give us a 20-3 lead, and we may have just punched our ticket to another national championship. As we'll send it deep. A return for Arizona State. Won't even get to the 20, tries to spin out of a tackle, gets slammed. And it's all the way to the end zone. 81 yards. Got to do it in the next couple of plays if they even want a chance to go for an onside. But with no touchdowns to their score in this game, they're going to start with a pass. Going to the outside underneath. It's across the 30, but they've got to get back to the line with no timeouts. As it doesn't matter, we'll hit the 2-minute warning before then. But with 2 minutes left in this game, they've got to go all the way to the end zone, as they're going to go with 2 receivers on each side of the field. Dropping back to pass, we're sending 4. Getting after the quarterback, hitting him in his face. They'll get it out for another first down. But back to the line goes Arizona State. In turbo offense here, as it looks like we're going to send 4 once again. That's exactly what we're going for. Dropping back to pass, going to the outside. They'll cross midfield. Does he step out of bounds? As it looks like he will for the time being. And we'll have a minute 45 from the logo. Over the middle again on another slant. That's a first down, this time inside our 40. As Arizona State's quarterback is now over 300 yards passing. He's dropping back to pass. We're looking for that first pick, but instead he's going to find another first down, this time inside our 30. Now with 90 seconds left as the clock continues to tick. It's back to the air. Over the middle of the field. That could have been intercepted, but instead it's caught inside the 20 on another slant. But all this valuable time off the clock keeps ticking by as Arizona State takes longer and longer to go to the end zone. Another in-breaking route, another catch. It's continuous in-breaking routes, slants towards the middle of the field, and Arizona State's found themselves inside our 15. Got to find the end zone here. They're letting a lot of time tick off. Dropping back to pass. He's got pressure in his face. He's going to throw it away as he gets slammed. The clock finally stops, and they'll get some time to breathe here. 59 seconds. To the air they go. We've got pressure in his face. He's going to scramble out to the left side. Throw on the run. Throws it beyond his receiver. That could have been the Arizona State touchdown that they were looking for, but instead it's denied. 55 seconds, 3rd and 10, back to the air. We're sending 4 again, trying to get to him. He's got a ton of time in the pocket. He's going to go out, throw it to the back of the end zone. It's broken up. If any receiver could have gotten open, he had all the time in the world to get the ball out. But instead, it's 4th and 10 for their season. The season will guaranteed be over for the Sun Devils if they cannot find the end zone. He is smacked as he throws. That could be a roughing the passer, and that's exactly what we're going to get. And Arizona State has a free life here. As instead it's actually pass interference in the end zone. But that doesn't matter. He caught the football. It's a touchdown for the Sun Devils either way. And it's a PAT that might not matter too much. It does cut our lead to 10, but they have to get this onside kick. Their season relies on this onside, and they're going to go for it, and it's going to be recovered by the first man who dives to the ground, and we'll bring out our offense to take one final knee, and we're going back to the game. Going back to the national championship. This time we're looking for our revenge. Either taking on Ohio State or Louisville in the national championship. We are not going down this year. We need to get this win. As with a 20-10 win against Arizona State, we've been dominant all college football playoffs long. We're going to head to what could be our final game of the rebuild in the national championship. We'll jump into this national championship starting with a handoff up the middle to Goldwire, who's going to find 2 yards, and it's a timeout for the Buckeyes. As we're currently up 17-13 as a touchdown on our previous drive got us this 17-13 lead. Now, Carnegie, play action, rolling out to the right side. He's hit as he throws. It's going to flop incomplete, roll all the way to the end zone, and it's 3rd and 8. We should be within field goal range for our very solid kicker as Carnegie's going to drop back, and as soon as I started talking, we may have just lost it all. As it's another timeout for Ohio State, and we're going to be forced to bring out the punt team. That's multiple times this playoff run that Carnegie's been within field goal range, and he loses it on a sack. And we're going to punt it out of bounds at the 21, and the Buckeyes, inside the final 3 minutes, need a touchdown to win it, starting with a 1st and 10, a runoff to the outside, getting slammed. As their running back Tut, with over 100 yards rushing, will get slammed there. Dropping back to pass. We're sending pressure. They're going to the outside. Another pass breakup. Our defense needs to stand up here. They need to step up as on 3rd and 13. They're going to motion a receiver. They're dropping back to pass. Running out of time. And a sack comes back to bite the Buckeyes now as it's 4th and 23. And we're going to close in on the 2-minute warning. It looks like we're going to hit that point. And this is the season for Ohio State. They have to make it to the 31-yard line, it seems. Dropping back to pass in his own end zone, scrambling out, looking to take off and go. Why are you running on a 4th and 23? And we'll get a turnover on downs at the Buckeye 15. It doesn't look like we have enough time to take a knee yet to solidify our national championship, but Latimer going to the outside, rolling inside the 11 as he's been held to 44 yards. His worst game of the season, but it's all we need as it's the final Ohio State timeout. And it's 6 yards between us and a national championship. A 17-0 season as it's Latimer getting slammed, and he will get nothing. Still letting all this clock run down. 3rd and 6. It's a handoff. It's a keeper, actually, up the middle. Carnegie inside the 5. There's a flag on the play. It could be a face mask on Maddox. And that's exactly what it is. But it shouldn't matter. It should be a first down no matter what. As it's just your poison. Pick your poison. 1st and goal from the 1 is what we'll get. A huge run for Carnegie. He just needs to take a knee, and San Jose State will be crowned national champions. As it seems like we want to come out for one more play. 2nd and goal now from the 2. Down to 30 seconds. To solidify a 17-0 season, Carnegie takes the knee, and the former 3-star will win us another national championship. Our first in program history with a 17-13 win over Ohio State. They put us at the number 9 team, taking on Oklahoma in the first round. Then we played number 1 Clemson. Then we played 12th ranked Arizona State. And finally, number 2 Ohio State. But now, after winning the national championship, this rebuild is officially over. Taking down the Buckeyes. What a rebuild. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Comment which team I should rebuild next. And as always, thank you for watching.